We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to We Say Things, episode 193. Gracious me, oh my, Sunsfan and Cinderin here with it's been a while since we've had a special guest episode, and it's the one and only Quinn Callahan. How are you doing, big boy?
Why can people never say his nickname without? It's just a requirement.
It's enjoyable. What can I say?
Fair enough.
Quinn, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's nice to be here. I have enjoyed many of y'all's podcast episodes. So
great. So if you're a fan of our podcast, you know that we're sponsored by Manscaped. Friends, family, and loved ones, I bet you haven't purchased a Father's Day gift yet, have you? Not to fear, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming are here. I'm talking about our friends at Manscaped. They're saving the day yet again with the total package for the father figure in your life this year. It's time to upgrade his game from waist to face with this exclusive offer. Have him join an 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get 20% off and free shipping with the code WeSayThings20 at manscaped.com. You know, kind of a PG version. I was hoping this would be like very sexual for Quinn here, but
especially given Quinn's vocabulary, I was hoping
is it
they would
normally
go a
very
bit
sexual?
deeper.
Oh yeah, they put a lot of puns. This one had almost none.
This is actually one of the flattest ones. But
yeah, if you need to shave your ball sack or anything of that nature, they have a lot of other products as well. We fully endorse Manscaped. So go to manscaped.com and use the promo code WeSayThings20. And next, the part that is most hilarious for me to watch guests who agree for some reason to read out our beautiful patrons from the In Bruges tier. Quinn, if you don't mind.
Yeah, this is where I read the list.
This is where you read the list. Thank you to
Pepperballs, Charlie Cheen, T-Coil. I hope I find a way to cosplay Mega Meepo at TI. Q-Ludes enjoyed the casting from both of us and has no notes. Stupid Copilot, D2 Bowie, Lab Dota, Yatoro does it again, Cinderin. You should check out 3K Licks Phillips' video about a CSGO roguelite and ad. I wish someone made one for Dota. What is this?
Actually, okay, not to interrupt. I actually did watch that. So some guy made a custom game for CSGO that's going to die now because when CS2 comes out, it's not going to be supported with the same language. It's fucking sick. I recommend people Google that on YouTube. It is insane what this guy did. Go ahead.
From 3K Licks Phillip, yes.
Yes.
MagDev wants volumetric smokes in Dota 2. Me too. Dear Valve, marketing is the process of promoting products or services to create value for customers and drive business growth. Disco Farm D. I looked under ballsack tag and found mold spelled incorrectly. The old adage, cheese in my teeth, ETH in my teeth, cheese in my teeth.
Don't ask. Don't ask.
I won't ask. Don't worry.
No.
The Mega Pope, not an ad. Tins, Xan Xavier, Nate Thicko, Ham Scroats, Bacon, Shark TM, Freshly Seasoned Goat Balls, Janny, Dop, Nothing to See Here, Underscore, Guitar Strings, Eves Remore, Ben Broomhead says hi to his friend Murray from Pixel, Wooden Aftertaste, Anonymous, and antlers are the fastest growing bone in the world, growing up to 1 inch per day in male deer. Mr. Niebling.
Oh,
very interesting. Thank you, Quinn.
All right, let's go, Quinn.
Thank you so much, Quinn. Thanks for coming on the podcast. All right, see you guys next time.
Yeah, see ya.
Shout out to 3K Licks Phillip.
Okay.
Are you supposed to say it?
I think it's 3 clicks Phillip. Like, just
Oh.
click on the mouse, right?
3K licks. Okay, so the beginning of every guest podcast, we do a quick rapid fire initiation. So I'm going to give you 2 things to choose from, and you choose one, but it has to be quick. People are really fucking slow, but you're a mid laner. You have high APM. Be fast, okay?
Okay.
All right. Mafia or town? Slow
Mafia.
as fuck. I knew it.
Sorry.
You said Mafia?
Yeah.
Okay. NA Dota or EU Dota?
You.
Run down mid or destroy items?
Run down mid.
Cake or pie?
Hi.
Oh, God. All right. Terrible job. All right. Terrible start to the episode. All right, Quinn. Welcome.
Measured only by cake or pie, of course.
Yes,
which
it's
is the
just-
only one that matters.
Cake is so much
okay.
better than pie. Come on. You're supposed to be American, for God's sake. Okay, so...
I mean, that is the more American choice.
Let's talk about your early life. And this is just up to you what you want to talk about, anything that you find interesting. Usually it's, where you grew up. I guess we can start with where did you grow up and what did you like doing as a kid? Even though you're
so I
still
grew up
young as
in.
fuck. Jesus.
I mean, not by mid-player standards, dude. BZM was born in like 2005 or something. I don't know how that's possible.
That's insane.
Um, yeah, I grew up in Louisiana, so the U.S. South. Um, Not a lot going on there besides food and rednecks, and swamps. But yeah, so I played a lot of video games as a kid. I'm sure it's not hard to guess. My dad is a programmer, so like we played video games like super young. Like I remember playing like Nerf, there's like a Nerf FPS game. I remember playing that at like I don't know, probably like 5 years old, 6 years old on like our PC. And so I started like super young playing games. Um, I had an Xbox, and like I don't because my dad was a programmer. I did a bunch of stuff like on computers. Like I had my own PC like really young. Like we're like a pretty normal middle class family, but like my dad, that's just what he chose to like invest in is like everyone in the family had their own PC, so we didn't have to like share stuff. So whenever I started playing games like more often, I didn't have to like take turns, so I got to play like more games, which is nice.
Was
I
that
guess
Um,
that's
so?
a benefit of having a programmer, Dad, is he understands the value of having your own computer
he
more
also
than
just built them
anyone.
himself,
So,
so it's not like
Oh.
he like they're cheaper that way because he just built them,
mm.
right?
So I'd have to go back and see how young everybody is that we've had as a guest. But for us, like me and Cinder, since we're oldies, that was not normal to have your own computer. Would you say, based
Yeah.
on like your friends, that was normal, or you were still
No,
an anomaly?
it was definitely not normal. Like people would come over to our house and be like, "Holy crap! Everyone has their own computer. What the?" And we were like, "Yeah." So I think I definitely understood like this is not normal, and I was just like grateful because like whenever I mean, it's a little later down the line, but whenever I eventually like wanted to do Dota professionally, like my dad was like, "Yeah, go for it." Um, so it was nice to have someone that understood that.
That's pretty
Shannon,
awesome.
you got to bag that sponsorship.
I know,
You
dude.
can't do that for free.
Cherry Coke Zero, shout out. Uh,
Bro, if you got a Coke sponsorship, that would be crazy.
yeah, they're
That
never
would
gonna
be
come to
that'd
Dota.
be good.
Never will happen.
That's the thing about this podcast, though. It's about basketball. You can tell them that it might sell.
Yeah, true. What about school?
So I was homeschooled. I've
Oh
never been to
yeah, I forgot about
I've
that.
never been to public school a day in my life. Um,
How common is that?
so in Louisiana, it's not super uncommon. The schools are really, really bad there. Um, and then some people do it for like religious reasons or whatever because they don't want like the bad influence or whatever on their kids, etc. Um, but yeah, the schools are really, really, really bad in Louisiana. Um, especially around where I was. So homeschooling was like a pretty reasonable option. Um, I didn't really like school. I was like okay at it, like I do my work, and I got fine grades or whatever. But I don't know, nothing ever really interested me that much. Like school was basically just like I finish it as fast as possible, so then I can go play whatever game I'm playing at the time. It's like a race to get done with school as fast as possible.
How
Which
does homeschool exactly work? Like, one of your parents, I assume, just teaches you, or do you actually have somebody like a teacher come to your house?
Yeah, so whenever I was like young, my mom just taught us. She stayed at home and taught us the materials or whatever. And then as we got to like an older age, um, you just have like your workbooks or whatever, and then you just do the work yourself basically. And then if you have questions, you can ask your parents or find resources whatever to learn the stuff. But essentially, you're just given the workbooks that they will be working through in public school, and you're just doing it yourself at your like which is kind of nice. It's kind of liberating in a way. Like you can get through the work a lot faster because you don't have like, random goobers like, causing a ruckus to like slow things down. Like you can kind of just open the book, you read the stuff, you do the problems, you understand it, then you move on with your day. You do the next the next course, which is kind of nice.
Was there? So how do they? I know there's the GED, right? That's for high school, if I'm not mistaken. Is there like you have to pass exams or anything to progress to the next grade, or is that just at the discretion of whoever's teaching you?
I think so. I never really knew that much about that side of things. My mom just handled it all. I assume I think there's a decent amount of like leniency. Like there's like a degree of for whatever reason, there's a degree of trust there that like I know you just say like, yeah, we're doing the work, and they just believe you, which is probably not a great thing, but yeah, I don't remember like taking any like state officiated tests besides like the stuff you use to get into college or whatever, like those ones.
Hmm.
You still have to take those obviously, but like in high school or middle school or whatever, I don't remember taking like state officiated tests.
And the one thing, of course, I know nothing about homeschool, but this was the main thing that pops in my head, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. Do you think that affected your social skills in any way? Because I know for me, my social social skills were still fucking garbage despite going to public school. And I can't imagine if did you have friends? Because that's where I got all my friends was from school,
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely impacts your social growth. I think there's no way for that not to be the case. I mean, like I went to like church or whatever when I was young, so I had friends from there, and then there are like homeschool groups, sort of. It was weird. It like almost starts becoming just public school, but there were like groups of homeschoolers who like do stuff or whatever, or have functions, or sometimes they'd even just do school together. It was like public school, but just like for homeschoolers. There was some weird stuff like that. So I did have social interaction, like I did stuff with friends, going into like middle school and high school. Before that, I was a bit of a recluse. I'd say partially, I mean, a decent amount because of the homeschooling. I think I definitely had a lot of catching up to do going into like playing Dota professionally, whatever. I had to learn a lot very quickly about social stuff because I was insanely shy and like insecure because I never really like built those muscles when I was younger.
That's interesting. Okay, so did you end up going to college at all, or was it just? I mean, we'll get into the games in a minute.
No, I did not. I did not go to college. I finished high school, and then I was like, man, I really didn't like anything in school. I do not want to go and pursue any of this further. It's just like it just didn't interest me at all. Like if I was gonna go, I was gonna go and get a degree in something I didn't care about, and then work a sad job that made me sad. So I wanted to avoid that.
But I assume you were good in school because I mean, you're very eloquent in the way that like when you flame people, it's like nothing I've ever heard, right?
It's a gift and a curse. Yeah, I was fine in school. I don't think I was like exceptional or anything, but I never had like trouble with classes or whatever. Like it was always fine.
Okay.
So where did you get that vocabulary? Because a lot of people that are more educated than you, even within a field of language, might not have the same like depth to choose from. So is that because you're interested in it? Do you like have a thesaurus next to you that you read like 10 pages of every day, or what's going on?
People ask me that a lot, so I've thought about it some. It does interest me. I don't like actively look up words or something or intentionally try to add things to my vocabulary, but I do think it's cool to be able to say words that mean a very specific thing that's like applicable to this one circumstance. Like I just think it's cool. Like I like it. I think my parents have pretty big vocabularies, and some of my relatives who I grew up around. So I just heard like a decent amount of words growing up. And I also read quite a bit when I was younger. Like part of our curriculum or whatever was we just read a lot of books. I think more than your average public schooler, at least whenever I was younger. So I think
I would say
I did
the
a lot of
average
reading when I was young.
the average public schooler does not read. I'll just say that with
Yeah,
experience.
we read a lot. Probably 20, 30 books a year or something.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah,
that's
so
really good,
though. I think that was probably that combined with like my parents having pretty big vocabularies is probably the biggest contributors.
Okay, so you mentioned that you had your own computer, your PC gaming, a side of Xbox. What are some of the games before Dotes?
I liked I played
Please
like
say
all the Call of Duty games. Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, you were the 12-year-old flaming in.
No, I never
DMs.
used mic. I never ever used mic in Call of Duty. Not one
Really?
time. Not a single time.
I
had like
if we go and look through the
parental
memes,
controls.
go and look up the Xbox 12-year-old flaming in PM memes. There's like 5 screenshots of you on
What
some
was
alias
your
Literally
that
screen
nobody
zero.
name
knows is
back
you.
then? Did you pick something
Oh
special?
goodness. I think it was like Agent Guns or something.
Yes, that is actually so on
There's
point.
that deep vocabulary in action right
I think
there.
I think there were multiple Z's. It was very Call of Duty.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's good. Like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I played a lot of Call of Duty. That's the thing I probably played the most. Um, Later on, I played Gary's Mod. I played Team Fortress 2. I played like the Elder Scrolls games. I even tried playing Morrowind, but that game is way too hard. Actually, holy crap! I don't know how people play that game.
It's very
Um,
bugged too.
yeah, I don't know. You're always walking around and there's some bird that just like is like stuck on your hitbox and it just won't go away. That game was insane. Um, I mean, I always like competitive games. I think like I was always playing like something with friends, like some multiplayer or whatever. I always got a kick out of that.
And when did Dota enter the picture?
It's pretty late on. I think it stopped like at some point I sort of phased off of playing Xbox games and I just started playing more stuff on the PC. I think that was Dota was after that period, so I wasn't really playing on Xbox anymore. I was pretty much just playing PC games. Um, and I had a friend that gave me a Dota 2 beta key. I'd never heard of the game. I didn't know what it was. Um, but we were like really close at the time. We played like CS Source and like Gary's Mod and stuff together. And he gave me this beta key and was like, "Yo, I have this key for this game. You want to try it?" I was like, "Okay." Um, and I played it, and I didn't know how to like. I didn't even know. Like I went into it completely blind. I didn't know how to move your camera, and he didn't know anything about the game either. So we're both just like completely blind figuring this thing out, which is quite the experience. Um, but yeah, I don't know why I liked it so much. The game is so obnoxious to learn, but I actually, when I look back, I think learning the game was actually the most fun I ever had playing the game.
Hmm.
Like something about just figuring stuff out and like I just have to look up all this information and like research stuff and like just learn the game from sort of this like totally blank slate was really cool.
Bet you read all the lore too, you sick fuck. You read the lore of every hero.
I definitely have not read the lore of any hero.
Yeah, sure.
But
I
I do
want-
remember like very quickly after starting the game, like TI 2 had finished not too long ago, and I just went back and I looked at the tournament games and I just picked the heroes they picked, like with
Hmm.
my brain off. I just saw what the pros picked and I picked those heroes.
Okay. Actually,
That's
Cinder,
already better than most. So
Cinder, would you say that you like when did you have the most fun playing Dota? Because for me, I would actually agree with Quinn. It was when I was first learning, and that was Dota 1 probably, where I would literally like complete fucking noob, like write down builds on sticky notes, put them on my monitor, Abaddon build Basher or whatever the fuck it was. And
I think for me there were like 3 phases, and I can't choose which one was more fun, but one of them is like yours, which was early on, just playing it with friends, figuring it out. Then for me it was getting into in-house leagues in Dota 1. So starting to play in a more organized environment where people, because in Dota 1 people were leaving games left, right, and center, because there was no punishment. It was just BattleNet, so you could just leave whenever you had a bad game or if you were bored. So I would say most games at that time didn't even finish 5 versus 5, so it's kind of lame, right?
Yep.
So in-house leagues actually had an organized system where you would get punished if you left, so that was a pretty cool upgrade. And then I would say the third part where I probably had the most fun was maybe the first half to the first year of Dota 2, when everything was new, we got things ported over, the whole dynamic, the new things we got in the game was pretty cool. And I'd never played Han, right? So I didn't have that second to Dota experience. So for me, that was the new Dota, and I never tried the other Dota, so to speak. So yeah, all of those were definitely fun.
all right, Quinn. So you just get into Dota. Then what happened? Like, take us through the point from that point to when you start playing actually competitively. Like, how long did it take you to become even remotely decent, considering you never played a type of game like this before?
I think I became remotely decent pretty quickly. I always was like pretty decent at games. Like I got to like a decent floor pretty quickly. Um, I don't remember how long it took me to get to 4.5k, but I remember whenever MMR came out. So like I started playing it like the end of 2012 or the beginning of 2013. I don't know when MMR came out, but when it came out, I was like 4.5k.
Hey, I was a
highest
higher
you could
MMR than you.
The highest
Fuck
you could
yeah.
calibrate at that time was 5k, just for reference.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the audience won't know these numbers, but back then 6k was very high, I think, when it came out.
Yeah, 6k
So
was
then you
like
were, really
rank
high.
1.
Yeah, it was very high up. So
I calibrated at 4.7k and then didn't play a rank game after. So Divine 1
4.7
forever.
at the time was very high. That was like 0.0000001%.
Well, apparently I'm amazing. You know.
yeah.
Okay, go
Imagine
ahead.
if you had just stuck to it, you could have been pro like in Counter-Strike.
Nah, it's okay. Pass.
So yeah, once MOR came out, I was 4.5k, and by that point I had started to like I think a great deal of how I've sort of started to become pro is I through like random chance became friends with a group of people who became friends with Owie, and then I got to play in some like party queue stacks with Owie, which sort of like I don't know. I just got to be around like this super smart person about the game, and I got to be around this group of people who were like all like better than me about the game, and I would just sit in TeamSpeak and just like listen to them talk, or even if I wasn't like playing in that specific party queue game, I just sit there and just like listen, which is just like super cool, to just get to play party queue games with Owie, who was like, I'm like a big fan of at the time, right? I think I had I had a lot of random things like that, like just this through a string of people, like meeting someone, and then getting to play with them. Like I forget how this train ended up happening, but somehow I ended up in veggies playing with Blitz and Cap and Merlini, which is also like
shit, I actually remember
super,
this.
which is super sick for my growth because Blitz had just come off of coaching Liquid with Kuro, so he had like all the hottest ideas like on the game, like the meta and stuff. Like he was super like up to date with what the best things were. So I learned a lot from just playing this random veggie stack. I don't remember how I ended up on this team, but somehow I like got to know Blitz, and he asked me to play in this stack, which is super sick.
That's crazy to think that veggies, because I remember them. That was before your pro career. That's
Yeah.
fucking insane.
It was
God
like
damn.
it was sort of in the midst of it. There was a period where I was on FDL. I think veggies was before FDL. So it was either before FDL or it was in between. So there was a period where I was on FDL and then I got kicked for 747. And then I think that's actually what happened. I was on FDL and I got kicked for 747. And then during that interim period, they became like VGJ Storm or something, and I played on veggies because I remember I cast the Kiev Major qualifier with BTS. And I think veggies played the qualifier either for the Kiev Major, or like we played the open qualifier or something, like the closed qualifier, something like that. We didn't play the main qualifier. Yeah, that's right, because we made it, or we were gonna make it, but we like forfeit the last match because we were casting it. So we made it all the way to the closed
that's
qualifier,
right.
and then we forfeit because we were gonna cast instead. And they wouldn't let it. We couldn't swing it to play and cast.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay.
So yeah, that was the timeline.
Okay, keep going.
So yeah, then there's veggies, and then eventually like the team that I was on FDL with like Stan and Francis or Flea, and Yawer. Or I think it might have been Ritsu and then switched to Yawer. I can't remember exactly, but I rejoined this team. So 747 leaves and goes to some other team, and I rejoin, and we become Team Freedom.
Okay,
A bit before that,
so that's not FDL, or is that the end of FDL?
The FDL sort of ends when we join. It's renamed to ISGG.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, because Wikipedia says that you joined for 11 days. Okay, so it's a
yeah.
team
So
name
I
change.
joined FDL and then we changed it to ISGG, which we won. We played some online tournaments. I think we might have won some Canada Cup or something. We like weren't doing that bad, like because right at the time there were all those online NA tournaments, right? And there was some Pat Soul stack, there was some Snake King stack, there was some some like Ritsu Mason stack. Like there were a bunch of like stacks that were all like pretty good at the time. And then there would be your Complexity, your VGJ Storm, your like there was DC at the time, right, with Misery. That was your team. Y'all would thrash us every time we played you. Gracious. And then eventually, like slowly, we played some of these online tournaments. We got a bit better, which then eventually led into the infamous TI qualifiers where we lost to Jenkins.
Oh
which,
no! Oh no!
But see, everyone always frames this like we lost to Jenkins at the end, like he had gate kept us, But they were our first match. We played Jenkins and we lost, and then that lit a fire on us. We're like, okay, we lost to Jenkins. We need to redeem ourselves. And then we went on to win every other match, including beating Cloud or whatever they were at the time, the Hot Sauce. What were they?
Oh, FTM Hots or FT whatever
FYM. But
FYM.
that was not the name
FYM.
of the team.
Yeah, what was
Who
the
was
team?
sponsored by that?
It wasn't Cloud9. It was something else.
Was that Envy's team?
It was NP. NP.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. NP.
It was AUI and Envy, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
AOI, Envy, Fada, Pile Die, +1.
Damn, what
It wasn't
a
Bone 7.
brains team. Jesus.
I think this was
It's a
post Bone
5-head
7.
team.
Oh, it was
It might have been Bone
Mojo.
7.
It was Mojo.
Oh.
MSS?
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's quite a
we
team.
beat them in the qualifiers, and then we had to play tiebreaker against them because we had the same record, and then they beat us in tiebreakers, and they got the first slot, right? So that qualifier was 2 slots, I think. It was 2 or 3, and they took the first one, and then the qualifier, or like the bracket plays for the second slot, and we went through the upper bracket. We beat DC and Complexity, I think, in the upper bracket on the way to the qualifier slot, and then Planet Odd got knocked, which is the misery team, whatever, post DC, got knocked out by like Complexity, and Complexity got knocked out by DC. So then we rematched DC in the final, and they obliterate us.
This is the
3-0.
DC that I wasn't a part of. I'm assuming this is like the Mason DC.
Yeah, this is
for
Mason.
TI7.
This is Mason Bulba. Yeah, it's TI7.
So they were called Onyx at TI, right?
Yeah, maybe they were called. Were they?
No.
I think they were. No, Onyx was after.
DC
Was
was
that after
definitely.
TI? Okay.
Yeah, I remember
But
being.
that
Yeah.
team became Onyx.
I remember being
that.
quite happy that they got shit on at TI. I remember that vividly. So. Bad
Yeah,
blood.
so they crushed us 3-0. That was the meta where mid had 5 creeps, so you just dual lane mid every game. So like
the dual lane lich mid with sacrifice. The
yeah,
golden age.
every lane was like Sand King Lina versus like Quap Nyx. That was like every mid lane. It was so weird. Or Bola played like 4 Slardar and he just like we just dual lane mid. It's actually so moronic. So yeah, we get dunked on. I'm crushed. You know, I'm crying. I'll go back home. That was the first time I ever boot camped. So we boot camped for this LAN or whatever for the qualifier for like 2 weeks or something beforehand. Scrims are awful. Holy crap, we got obliterated in scrims. But anyway, yeah, we lose the qualifiers. Sag, what can you do? And then Bruno just randomly PMs me on Twitter asking if I want to cast TI. And like when I first got the DM, I look at my phone. It's like I see Twitter DM. I look, it's Bruno Carlucci. I'm like, wait, surely it's a bot, right? It's real. And then I'm like, holy crap! I'm like, hi. And then he's like, hey, would you like to cast TI? I'm like, yes, please. And so, yeah, I don't know. Then Peter proceeds to ask me a TI.
So that's the Day 9 TI, right? Which will forever be known as Day 9 TI.
Yeah, that was Machine and Day 9.
Yeah.
And the panel was you, Peter, and Ake.
Pycat.
And Pycat. The 4 of you, right?
Ake was main stage. He wasn't group stage, I think.
Okay.
So it was me, Peter, Pycat, and...
So you did the entire group stage with no swapping around. You were just on every panel, the 3 of you?
No, I feel like there was a 4th
swapping.
person. Was it Blitz? It might have been Blitz.
Maybe Ben? Was Merlini on?
I think he was only main stage.
Maybe he was casting. I actually don't remember.
No, Merlini was definitely on panel with Day 9. I remember these panels quite
Yeah,
vividly.
he was main stage for sure.
Okay.
Peter was also both. I can't remember if it was just us 3 or not, a Machine. Those panels were weird because we didn't actually talk about the draft. Like that was the year where they got all pros. Like it's literally me, Peter, and Pycat. Like it's all like pros / semi-pros.
Yeah.
And then we just didn't talk about the draft. Like it was the beginning, middle, end panels for group stage.
You know what's funny?
So we just come on, talk about what happened, and then get off.
I think those panels might actually work better now because people are better at understanding the entertainment value. Like, I think you and Pycat specific and PPD has been on some stuff recently. Like, I don't remember you being on the panels with Dana, but they were so dry. Like, just
I was not on the Day 9 panels.
there was just like laughing by Day 9. Nobody else would react. they just talk as deep as they can about the game in a very dry tone. Day 9's like relatively new to Dota. Man, he got fucked pretty hard at that TI. Feel bad for him.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
But how was the experience overall for you? Cast or did you do casting or just panel?
Just panel. It was. I mean, getting to hang around people, like getting to hang around the talent. Like I remember pretty clearly where the player dinner was. Like it was on this like this pier area. It was like this seafood restaurant, I think. And I remember like sitting around just like listening to talent talk. And I remember just getting to be around talent because I'm still a fan of everyone at the time, right? Like I'm not a pro yet. I haven't been to a tournament really. I went to that one summit we got voted into. Like So for me, I'm still just a fan of everyone. So it was just super cool to just get to be around everybody and hang out. I was really bad at my job. I was incredibly nervous and didn't have any like chemistry or like on-screen pizzazz. I was just like some goober who was insanely nervous and had like really bad screen presence. So I was really really bad at my job, but it was really cool to get to hang around people and just like see people who I talked to, like message some or had on my friends list or whatever. Like that was a really cool experience.
So you get picked up by PPD, who puts together an optics team, right?
Yeah.
How did that go? That was your first. I would say that's your first like mainstream team, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Everything before that was just like NA stacks that like never really went anywhere. It's just in NA things.
How did okay, just to add to that, how did Peter approach you? Because obviously you met in person that TI. What was his like pitch when he was he like, hey, I've seen you play. I think you're like an up and coming. Like, what value did he see in you? Because NA usually at the time, NA is like this super small circuit that's very tight knit. You're shuffling the same 20 players around. So why did he take a chance on you instead of just going to the usual suspects?
I think this was like sort of. I mean, it was like 2 years after, right? But it was still sort of in the wake of Sumail and like no one, and like it was like all the young gun mid players, like holy crap, new super skilled mid player is like carrying and owning. He's the best. He's owning everyone. And so that was sort of like that was Miracle, right? Yeah, that was right after like the dawn of Miracle. Like that was when it was in everybody's minds, right? That was like the meta. Was you need a new guy. You need some new guy to join your team and own from mid. And I think he thought that was me. It was not at the time. I was awful, but that was his hope, is that I would be the next Miracle. Which essentially is what he pitched me. He was like, "Yeah, I think nowadays you need this super skilled mid player. You need to have this young gun who's going to own the game, and that's what I want you to be." Which
I mean, he was
basically
right.
his
He was
pitch.
just off by a few years, but
Yeah, 5 or 6 years. He was foretelling the future, but doggone, I was awful at the time.
What were your placements like? I don't really remember.
You got an 8th at TI, I want to say.
Yeah, we got 8th at TI.
Oh, I mean that's not
that bad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, we won a minor. We got second at the Birmingham Major to VP, who was literally unbeatable. So that's basically first. We lost we got a lot of like 8s. So like there was the Bucharest tournament we got 8th at. We had like a lot of like 6th through 8th placements. And then that year was weird, right? Because there were so many tournaments. There were a lot of tournaments that had really weak fields. So
was
like
the year with like 10 minors and majors combined. Was that year?
No, it was the year with like 10 minors and like 25 majors.
What?
That
25?
Sounds a bit exaggerated, but
okay, not 25. No, but dude, it was at least 25.
It was the most
minors and majors combined. Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay. Right.
Like
Was that
like every 5 minutes we were playing a qualifier for another tournament.
That's the same season I think that we did the captain's draft, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was also
that
was also
Midas
minor mode.
That's why.
Yeah, Midas mode was like a few months before that or something.
Yeah, because we played Midas mode on Optic.
How did you guys do?
I think we won
Midas
Midas mode.
tournament, Shannon.
No,
I think we won Midas
you
mode.
You didn't win. What? Did you?
We did.
You're
yeah,
kidding.
we won NA Midas mode. Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean by? Oh, that's right. We hit. Wait, is this Midas mode 2?
I don't know.
Yeah, if it was NA, then fuck, I'm trying to remember.
Because we didn't play on ping, and we were offered to play like a show match against OG, who won EU Midas mode, and we said no.
Right. So if I'm not mistaken, that was Midas mode 2, because that's when we gave the option, and the one before that we did not give an option. If I
I see.
serves.
Yeah, we said no. Because I'm pretty sure we were scared.
Yeah. Thanks for that not free content. That would have been a good 3 games.
I'm sure nobody wanted to watch OG play Midas mode against an NA star team. Makes sense. Yeah, nobody wanted that.
Of course not.
So all these minors and majors, you get 8th at TI, which, I mean, were you happy with that? I mean, I think a lot of people would be happy with 8th.
I was really happy with that. That being my first tournament, also considering like how I had like a lot of confidence and anxiety issues around playing at the time. So an 8th for me, I was like ecstatic because it was like, holy crap, like I actually got a decent placement, and like for how every game felt, like every game was like pretty rough to play, just like emotionally for me. So getting 8th was like, wow, that's I was super happy with it. I remember walking away from the stage after we lost, smiling. I haven't had that experience in a long time, but but yeah, like I remember like just being like grateful that like, hey, this is like a crazy experience, you know, like I got invited to this team. We got eighth at the biggest tournament in the world. Like that's pretty cool, you know. Like this is a pretty like Optic I still look back on as like one of like the best years of my life. Like I'm super grateful for that experience and like fond of like the memories and stuff from that time.
And then what happened?
Then so like in my head at the time, I sort of had this like I had some friends who I like talked to like before Optic and sort of, you know, through Optic just like casually whatever. Like people who I wanted to make a team with the next year because I was sort of in this like mindset of like you need people who are like super you need like essentially like the VP team, right? This is like NA VP almost. Like just like super Dota degen like group of friends who have like really like a lot of ideas, whatever, and that's what makes a team good. I was wrong. But that was like my idea was that so like I wanted to make a team with like my sort of group of friends that we were all like had a lot of ideas and we agreed about a lot of things about the game. I thought we had good ideas. And that's what I wanted to do. And so we made the SA stack with Kitrak, Ritsu, and then 40R and Lois.
Well, what happened with Optic? I don't a lot of this I don't remember. Did you leave or did the team disband?
It sort of fizzled. I think Peter went on to make NIP with Ace and
right.
Fada and stuff. Zai went to Secret or EG. I don't know which
it's always
one
of the two. Yep.
Yeah, he went to one of those teams. I don't know where the heck Misery went. And PJ, after Optic, sort of dropped off the face of the earth for a while.
I think he never played pro again, right? Or did he play one more team?
He played on OG for like a few months.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he played carry for OG for like, yeah, you're right. And
yeah, but I think besides that, he never played on another team. So yeah, Optic fizzles, and in the wake of it fizzling, I try to make this this stack of like friends, like the Goon stack, you know. So yeah, we go to SA, and the first season's not bad. We get second. We lost to the Weeha random SA Pain Gaming team.
Misery was on that team, wasn't he? Or is that
later?
Oh yeah.
This might have been pre. So they did the thing where like the coach, like Misery's like sliding into the coach slot, and then the 5 players like and then they kick the 5, and the Misery joins. So they did that. I can't remember if Misery had joined the team or not before when we played them. I think he hadn't. I think after we beat them was whenever the 5 got kicked. So the first season we got second to them, and we went to the major. We played the major, which was Kuala Lumpur. We got 12th. We beat Theban's team and made them last. We got 12th. We lost to Vici Gaming, who was way better than us. I think they went on to get second or third or something. Maybe they won the major. No, third, I think. Because the final was VP Secret. So yeah. Second season is the infamous DQ. So we go, we play the qualifier, we win the qualifier, we leave. In the airport on the way home, I see the tweet like that we've been disqualified. They didn't message us like privately or whatever. We just saw the tweet that we were disqualified.
And what was the reaction?
I remember this. That was holy shit.
The reaction was just like shock. I was just like, wait, really? Because I don't know, it was just weird because we had just played the whole qualifier and then won the qualifier. And then they disqualified us after we won. So I was just like shocked. Like I was like, I thought we were fine, you know? Like, okay, we're gonna go play the major now, cool. So that was my, like, honestly, my main reaction was just surprise.
And there was no forewarning or anything like that.
So we talked to them. I asked them like about what the rules were, and it was like, I don't know. It was the whole like 3 players in the region thing, right? Like the whole need to have 3 people living there, which we didn't. You know, we weren't we weren't playing by the rules. Like I don't think the DQ was like unreasonable. I think it was a reasonable DQ. I think the way it was done was questionable, that we played and then they DQ'd us after we spent all this money like boot camping there and playing the qualifier and stuff. Like that was kind of bad. But I think DQing us is like DQing us, like we weren't according to the rules. Now, I mean, you can look at further incidents or stuff happening right now that also isn't following the rules and isn't getting punished. So that's more what pisses me off. Not that we got DQ'd. I think DQing us is fine.
Yeah, the Fart Studios thing, and then the bait current situation where nobody is in NA, but they're allowed to play because of force majeure. But you would think that there's other cases, like Fart Studios feels like a bit of a force majeure. I don't know. But that, not consistent, that is for sure. So what happens after the DQ? Because you guys qualify, get DQ'd, and I'm sure you said you were confused. You guys weren't angry or anything like that?
Oh, I was pretty mad. I was pretty doggone furious. But confusion was first, then came anger. And then came like, okay, what do we do now? Because we had 2 Brazilian players. So I think we ended up kicking 40R. Maybe we kicked him before the second tour. Oh yeah, that's right. That's why we didn't have oh dude, I remember it was weird. I remember it's because we didn't have 3 South Americans for the first season either. That's why it was so weird.
Oh, but they let you play.
For the first season. Yeah. Yes. Because we had an SA org. I remember that's what was weird. So we had we had 2 SA and we were Pain Gaming. And then we kicked 40R. So we were minority SA before, and now we're still minority SA. And then we got rid of the org, and then they DQ'd us. That's why I remember I was so fucking mad, because we were minority SA for the first season. Like, we still weren't 3 hero people living in the region. So it was like giga weird. Like, okay, you kick us now, so it's an org thing. Like, the org is relevant, you know. Like, I remember that. I forgot about that. Holy crap.
That's pretty random. Yeah.
So yeah, then after that, we just went to play NA instead. I think NA was pretty hard at the time. There were a lot of pretty competitive teams. So we were not good enough. I think we played some. Our team disbanded and rebanded, and I was playing in some really bad stack. I think it was some Eternal Envy playing 5, Ritsu carry, Snaking 4, and this team was a travesty. We never played an official. We just played scrims, and then at some point, Eternal Envy, after 2 weeks of scrimming on 5, he said he wanted to play 5. We had someone else playing 5, and then Eternal Envy wanted to play 5. So we kicked the person who was playing 5, so Eternal Envy could play 5.
Of course.
Because he was Big Shot had a lot of ideas, right? And then 2 weeks into the team, he wants to kick Ritsu and play carry, so I left the team.
Yeah, that's a good choice, I think.
Yeah, I just left the team because I was like, this is ridiculous, I'm out.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later, I get invited to join Forward Gaming, with Yawer, Mojo, and then Snaking also went. So he also left the Clown Fiesta team. And then we got Pile Die because Avery had baby retired. So yeah, that was Forward Gaming was the next phase.
And then that became VGJ Storm.
No, so it was VGJ Storm before, and then that
before
year.
Forward. Okay.
Yeah, so
Right,
the year
that's
I was Optic, they were VGJ Storm, and then
Got it. Yeah.
my SA year they became Forward.
Oh yeah, because VGJ Storm was captained by SVG and Forward wasn't.
Forward was up until we joined.
Until you joined. Okay.
Yeah, so
hard
then it
to
was
remember
just
everything.
Yawer and Mojo.
So much.
Yeah, it's a Clown Fiesta. So then it was just Yawer and Mojo, and me, Pilot Eye, and Snay joined.
Okay.
So
No,
now
I remember you're wrong. Kitrak joined with me, and then we played a couple qualifiers with Kitrak, and we played the Croatia minor with Kitrak, and then we kicked him and got Pilot Eye. Yeah, I totally forgot.
And then this became eventually Quincy Crew, right?
So we played that TI as Forward, and then the next year Avery came back, and we were Chaos for 3-4 months, and then COVID hit, and Chaos dropped us, and we became Quincy Crew for the foreseeable future.
And there was that 1 year during COVID where Quincy Crew was just destroying everybody in NA, clearly number 1, but no tournaments, right? Or no big tournaments, at least. Take us through that year.
Yeah, I mean, that year was pretty. We improved a lot. It was weird. It was this hyperbolic time chamber where me and Avery just watched a bazillion replays together. I grinded laning. I think I got a lot better at laning during that phase, and we just like grinded replays. And we were way better than all the other NA teams. Like we won like 8 tournaments in a row, I think. Like we beat. It was either Crazy at the time, who was like Aoi and Skitter and stuff. It was like half
Kazu.
of. It was like half. Yeah, Kezu. It was like half of Tundra. Um, we beat them like every tournament, and then there was also this Eternal NV747 team that we beat sometimes. Like whoever went into the finals, we just smacked them. There were a couple that were NASA mixes, and there was some Thunder Proud in the finals, and we smacked them too. Like it was like every tournament we just smacked everyone.
How many of the tournaments had EG? Because I remember you were beating them.
0.
0? I remember you beating them in something.
So that was DPC. Whenever DPC started back up, because at the time they had Ramses, and Ramses is in Russia, and so his ping was like too bad. So they just opted not to play any of the online tournaments. So yeah, I don't know. It was both like really sad and awful because we were just sitting there. That was the period where there was like just a complete vacuum of information. Like there was just nothing. We're just like in radio silence, just like playing and like wondering, is Dota dead? Like, because you honestly didn't know at the time, like if the game was dead or not. Like it very well could be, Like nobody knew at the time how bad Co was going to be. Are the variants going to get worse and worse? Like, are people going to keep dying in droves? Like, is this the end of Dota and the world? So it was like you're kind of just like sitting and playing and trying to improve and just like, I hope everything isn't over. And eventually it wasn't. Then DPC began, and the heck have my DPC began, and
well, what about the news of TI? Did that hit you hard?
Oh shoot!
As you're hitting your stride.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty crushing. I mean that was all sort of tied in with the like just vacuum of knowledge, right? Like we're playing assuming TI is coming up, right? And all this practice is going to be for something, and then TI is canceled, and it's like, okay, now what? Is next TI going to be canceled too? Like, is the next major going to be canceled? Like, what are we playing for here? Because the last tournament we practiced for was going to be canceled. Well, it got canceled too, right? It was the LA Major, and we were actually doing really well in scrims, and in the qualifier for the LA Major. Like we were pretty confident going into that, and then that gets rug pulled, right? And then TI gets rug pulled, and it was just like, yeah, I don't know. I've considered quitting a lot of times in Dota, but that was one of the times where I considered it the most. Like, you just had no idea if this thing was like actually feasible anymore, or if it was just like it was just done here, So everything's just getting rug pulled. Valve's like sick of the community being annoying, and they just dip out, right? Like that was a very real possibility at the time.
Okay, so Quincy Crew, multiple variations, and then into Soniqs. Take us through that period, and then we'll talk about your latest team.
Yeah, so it was the Avery Quincy Crew, which was honestly a very good team. I think we had like one of the best early games in the whole world. I think we had games where we would just stomp people. Like that was not really happening that much at the time, where people would just like stomp other teams. But we won games, we just like obliterated them in 3 lanes and ran the game over in like 20 minutes. Like it happened a decent amount. Like we had some game against Vici at the Anna Major. Yeah, where we just like turbo stomped them like insanely fast. We had the game against T1 that we won, and then the infamous wide back Quinn moment. So
Wait,
yeah,
what was the game that we cast? Was it Pain? Or, no, wait, who was it? It was a South American team.
It was also at Anna Major.
Hilarious.
Yeah, Pain, it was the what became Thunder Predator and now EG. It was Panda, Matthew, Oscar, Dark Magoo, and HFN.
That was one of the most entertaining games for me, enjoyable games to cast. That was so fun.
That game was
so clowny.
It was very entertaining and really bad.
Yeah, that game was atrocious. That game was absolutely awful. Yeah, we won by some miracle. I got top 6 in painful fashion because we were 2-1 against Vici and 2-1 against T1. And the game against T1 we definitely should have won, but we did not. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, didn't. That was pretty crushing. And then we had sort of a rough period, we've like sort of faltered and like lost our identity some. We tried to improve and fix things that we were bad at, and in the process sort of lost what we were good at. Went into TI, sort of just stumbled in, barely survived groups, barely beat, I think it was Aster to get 12th. And then, as is tradition, Quincy Crew loses to OG and is eliminated. So yeah, that was the end of the Avery team, and then what the heck was next? What was next? Was Fada next? No, something else was. I need to look. I actually can't remember.
It's funny that the most recent thing is the hardest to remember.
Because those rosters all blend together. It was also such a fucking terrible time. Like it all went downhill from there.
I guess for a lot of people, 2021 didn't even happen.
Yeah.
So I guess if it's that year, then
I remember Kezu was briefly on the squad, right? Very briefly.
yeah, that was after TI.
Then there was Fada.
Okay, so then I guess it goes from the Avery team. Yeah, it goes from Avery to then it goes to the Palmo roster, to the me, Yower, Kezu, Milan, Palmo.
Milan.
And that's
when our DPC cast in the fucking drafts, that's the most entertaining part of the game, actually.
Yeah, Milan caressed his nipples.
That was great.
Yeah, that team was that team also, we got rug pulled again. We got first in that DPC the first season with Milan, Kezu, and Palmo, and then the major got canceled. And then we're like, okay, again, round 3, nice, great.
Mm-hmm.
And then second DPC, we don't make the major because we suck. And then we kick 3 people. We kick all 3 people, and we get Mojo, Fada, and Lois. Which
and during this time, it becomes Sonics. So between VGJ Storm and Soniqs, it's all Quincy Crew, let's just call it. What is that like as a player to not have a sponsor? Because obviously Jack has been, NA is impossible to find these things for.
Yeah, it's not possible.
What is that like from a player's perspective? Or were you even in the loop on what's going on behind the scenes?
I kind of just got used to not having a salary. That sort of was and still is, if you're not, TSM or Spotify, that you just don't get paid in NA. Like, so you either make TI or you make less than minimum wage. It's just one or the other, right?
Yeah.
And so like that just sort of became the reality. Like at some point, like in the beginning, like when Chaos dropped us, it was a bit like sad and scary. But then COVID was so long of no salary that we kind of just got used to it. Like there was always this like sort of looming like, oh, Jack's talking to someone or someone's interested in something. It always fell through.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice job, Jack.
Yeah, I blame Jack. It's all Jack's fault. Everything that happened in those teams is all his fault. I take no blame. But yeah, so then I don't know. We kind of just got used to it. Like playing with no salary was just sort of how it went. I mean, it added to the stress and pressure. I think maybe it hurt our results more than us being garbage, or like in addition to us being garbage. Because yeah, I mean, if you lose, then you just make $0. Like it's like the Wild West days, right?
Yeah.
Like whenever sponsors didn't exist or the salaries were really bad.
Well, a little later we'll talk about the DPC and what you would want changed. Let's not get into that specifically yet. So
sure.
Soniqs at TI. Talk about that.
Yeah, that team was just super. What's weird is the first half of that TI bootcamp is we were actually doing really well in scrims. We had like some insanely good record. We were beating like all the teams, like everyone was scrimming. We had super, super good results. We were beating a lot of the really strong teams. And then, I don't know, something just happened. We just started sucking like halfway into the boot camp. We just started losing every game. We could not win a game to save our lives. If we won a game, it was like scrounging and scrapping and like barely pulling a win together out of the sand. So yeah, and once again, it's sort of similar to the Avery year. We're sort of like limp into the group stage. We barely survive. Or no, we don't survive. Never mind. It's not like the Avery year. We get knocked out in groups because we're being atrocious. And around this time is sort of whenever I decided, or maybe a bit before, I don't know, like around this time is like, I'm never playing in NA again.
Yeah, I talked to you briefly at TI, I think, about that, and I asked what your plans were. You're like, well, either gonna find an EU team or retire. I'm like, wow, that's
yeah,
quite the discrepancy between those two choices.
Yeah, I mean that's how it was. I think I had just decided that NA is literally hopeless at that point. The pool of players, the org situation, the disadvantage in like who you can scrim, and like all like there's so many disadvantages in NA. I just gave up on the region. I think it's practically impossible to make it out of NA. So that really was my choice. Like I had one team invite after TI, and it was Gaimin. I had nothing else. So if Gaimin didn't ask me, I was just done. Because I would rather retire than play in another NA stack, because it was just I'm just like going around the Ferris wheel, of mediocrity, and I just let me off, please. I've been around the loop enough times.
So how did this come about exactly, the invite? Were you friends with Celery or something, or?
No, I didn't know any of them at all, actually. I didn't even have any of them friend listed.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. He messaged me on Twitter. I opened DMs, and he just PM'd me on Twitter. It was like,
There was
hey.
another PM from Bruno Carlucci. Hey, do you
Yeah, I
want
was
to
like,
play for Gaimin Gladiators? Is it
again.
real?
It's the real Celery? Yeah, so he just said, hey, you want to talk about joining? I was like, yeah, sure. And so we went and talked about it, and apparently they like me. Yeah, and the rest was history, I guess. But yeah, no, I don't know where this rumor comes that I was super tight with them, or we were best buds, or we were talking all the time. I talked to them a little bit, but not really. And I had none of them friend listed, and I knew none of them I don't think I ever met them before.
That's crazy. I
before
didn't know
TI.
that. That's insane. That's really
That's
crazy.
old school team making.
Yeah, I don't.
The rest of the team was obviously, but
yeah, I think
they,
it's spoken less than 10 words to all of them.
They lost Boom, right, to Secret, I want to say, off of memory.
Yeah.
I think they kicked Boom, but Boom joined Secret.
Oh, okay, so they kicked him. But did they kick him before they even had a replacement, aka you?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I wonder what... I'd have to talk to Celery and ask him what the options were, because obviously you're a good mid laner, but you were stuck in NA for so long that your stock was dropping, I'm sure, at least.
Yeah, my stock was not great.
And so you joined this team. Where do you guys boot camp and stuff? Did you relocate for it? Were you temporary NA, and then for boot camps you move over, or how does that work?
No, so I full relocated. I'm renting an apartment with Reshi D, who works for Gaimin, in Romania. So I've lived in Europe the whole year so far. Because I was just sort of if I'm gonna do Europe, I'm gonna commit to this, right? I'm gonna play EU pubs. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be in the right time zone, right? So I can talk to people, and I can play scrims not on ping, and do all the normal expected team stuff, right? I'm not gonna do this halfway, right? This is my last chance, essentially, is how I viewed it. I've been dwelling in the NA awfulness for a long time. This is my only chance to prove myself. So I'm gonna try to prove myself. And I came here to Romania, and yeah, I don't know. That was the only option, I think, was to move here. Staying in NA wasn't really feasible.
So quick side note before we get into the team itself. NA pubs versus EU pubs, what's the biggest differences?
I mean, EU players are just more high skill.
There's
more high skill players, and the players are more high skill. I mean, no, it's not the only difference. I think EU players are more toxic.
EU players are more toxic?
Yeah, I think EU is the most toxic region by a pretty sizable margin.
Oh. What about game ruining? I've heard there's less in that in EU versus NA.
Yes, there is. EU has a different type of game ruiner, but they still exist for sure. But it is some amount less than NA for sure.
Okay.
NA has more games
the region more
ruin.
toxic but has less game ruining? So what's toxic for you then? Is it the way people talk, or? Yeah,
I think EU is way more down to just flame people like crazy and then just keep playing the game. It's just whereas in NA, whenever you start flaming like that, people just break their items. And then the game's over. So the game stays either civil or they completely disintegrate, because when you start flaming, everyone breaks their items and gives up. Right. Whereas in EU, some guy misses a spell in lane, and his whole team tips him and does the Russian smiley face and says, well played, well played, well played, well played, well played, well played, and chat wheels ha 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 every time you miss a spell. And that crowd drives me up the wall. I have to mute everyone in EU pubs because people are so annoying.
Oh, you did that in NA as well, right? You auto mute.
Yeah, but in NA it was the beginning, I came to EU, and then you're oh, EU is the great, the wonderful region. I'm gonna start unmuting people and dip my toes in the water a little bit, And I very quickly took my toes out the water and remuted everyone, and receded back into my cave of solitude.
I mean, that's probably for the best for mental health reasons, if nothing else.
Yeah, for sure.
So okay, so
how many of your teammates do you have muted in pubs?
0. I unmute all my teammates.
Oh,
that's good.
Oh, you mean when the game starts, you unmute your team, but you mute the enemy, or do you mean your teammates from Gaimin Gladiators?
Yeah, I mean my team is from Gaimin Gladiators. Oh,
Yeah,
and
that was
pub
what I
lab.
meant as well. But the way you said it, you made it sound like you unmute your allies in the pub
Oh
games,
no,
but you don't.
I don't unmute my allies. No.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. If you watch his stream, you never hear another voice. I think. Okay, so Gaimin Gladiators, you join. What is that experience like early on? And then take us through like the first Lima Major.
Joining was weird because I haven't joined a team since since like Forward, right? But that was so long ago that like I don't even remember. Like I didn't even really remember the experience of joining a team. Like what's that's like, getting to know new players, know like their style, sort of integrate yourself into the team. Like that was sort of a relearning experience because I hadn't done it in like 4 years or something. Um, I think it was overall pretty easy and chill. Like people work very hard on this team. They have a lot of ideas, but they're also very like they just talk a lot about the game, and I do too. So I think that fit in quite well. Like in terms of me saying the stuff I thought about the game, and like they were also going through a phase of like new discovery, right? Because they kicked their coach too, and I think their coach had a lot of like say and influence on that team. So now they're like, sort of being like now they're out on their own, right? They're not like he drafted for them. He did a lot of the strategy, this stuff, and so now that's not there anymore, right? So they're sort of like refinding themselves and thinking about what they think about, like remembering what they think about Dota and stuff like this. And so I'm entering at the same time. So there's almost this experience of we're all sort of learning at the same time about each other and the team as a whole, because their team is very different now because kicking the coach like had a lot of impact on how the team functioned and stuff, I think.
So when you joined and you had all this strategy talk, did you find that they were very open to your ideas, or was it you that needed to be fitted into like a more of their system? Because that's always something that I find really interesting when regions mix like that, is that there might be something in one region that's almost a given, like the way you think about the game in NA, for example, versus the way EU players think. Did you find that it matched pretty well, or did you kind of have to adapt to a different environment in that sense?
I do think it meshed pretty well. I think we prioritized similar things or had like similar things as sort of like the building blocks of like what made good gameplay. And then like, as you move further out from the building blocks, things can be a bit different and you sort of like need to fit those things together. A bit more tightly, or it takes a little more time, right? Because they're just further out from the center. The center, if it's the same, that's all in good. Like you want the center to be correct because everything else, comes from that, right? If you're not like together on the fundamentals, then like everything else is just a mess. I think we were very together on the fundamentals pretty quickly, and then it was just a matter of sort of figuring the outer stuff and learning each other's gameplay and like building good habits and learning each other's tendencies and hero pools and strengths and weaknesses and all these types of things. But I think in terms of like base concepts and understanding of the game and like things we valued, it was very easy to like sort of come together on that.
Okay, take us to the DPC and Lima.
DPC was.
Did you think that the Lima Major would be canceled before?
I did. I did not expect the major to happen. Yeah, I thought for sure it wasn't gonna happen. Like everyone was talking about, there's political unrest, there's like riots and stuff. I'm like, yeah, of course it's getting canceled. What do you mean? So I was just sort of operating under the assumption that it was getting canceled. Like we were just playing for DPC points, and there was gonna be a regional league, and I've done this before.
For you.
I've done this before. It's all right. So that's what I was expecting. I think that DPC was both really stressful, but also a really good learning experience for me. Because I've talked about this like before, but I think one of the biggest differences or things that makes NA a doomed region is you don't play against good opponents enough to build the like feeling of what it feels like to play against good players. Like there's an emotional or like mental aspect to playing against good players that if you don't do it frequently enough, you get scared. Like there is some part of you that has some degree of fear because like in NA, right? You play one good team a year, right? You have your one series against Spotify, and every other series is against like
Spotify. I can't tell if it's a meme anymore. I guess it's a meme. I don't know.
I do think it's fun. Yeah, so like every other series is against like bots with like 4 toes, and then like, you play Spotify, and it's like really scary because you're laning against Abed, and our Tor is their carry. Oh my gosh, and crits ganking me, and you lose and you get stomped, and then you play against bots again, and then you go to the major because NA is terrible, and so you go to the major, and then you play against real teams. You get scared again. You lose very quickly because you're scared and bad, and then you come back home and you do it again. You just like keep rinsing and repeating this, and you don't play good teams enough to actually build the muscle memory of like what it feels like to play good players. So like going to EU was both terrifying for me because I have to play good players every single game, but also like made me a lot better, not in terms of gameplay, but in terms of like my ability to be a consistent player because I was forced to like build the like emotional resilience of like not being scared of these players, you know? Like you play against Nisha in NA and it's terrifying. Like holy crap, this guy's like mythical status, you know? He's like Olympus on some mountain, just like looking down upon the world, and you have to like climb the mountain to play the guy. And now it's like I'm just used to playing everyone, which is like such a game changer.
Okay, so this leads me to a question about choking. So in your before Gaimin, for the NA teams that didn't do as well as you would have hoped, how much of the blame do you think, like you can be general about this, do you think on your performance, like doing something because of exactly what you're talking about? You didn't have the emotional immunity. I don't know how you actually want to call it, or the callus, perhaps.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not exactly sure. I never really thought about a name for it. I think it wasn't like there was some percentage of it that was my fault, but I think it was like as a team, everyone had this issue. Like everyone got scared. And I think that was probably the biggest reason why we never really had that many results. Like there's always gameplay stuff as well, but I think to be honest, our like quality of play always just dipped a bit on LAN because we just got scared. And I think that was definitely like for a long time I was worried, like sort of in my core, that am I a choker? Like that was always like a fear I had. And you never like think about it because you don't want to like will it into existence by like thinking about it and like actualizing, you know, if I don't think about it, it's not real. But that was always a fear I had, that I might be a choker, and I'm just bad. I'm just not cut out for it. Like I can't succeed.
So, just to piggyback off the NA comment, what do you think allows TSM in the NA region to have a really good win rate against Shopify, right? Because like you said, they're like the end game boss or the end boss, whatever, of the region every season. And then you have nouns that kind of like are hopeful but never quite get there. Do you feel like nouns are in the position that you are explaining you experienced on an international stage? Is that nouns' place in NA? And why can TSM overcome that consistently within the region?
I do think nouns is sort of where we were. Like I think you could see it in Dream League. Like when they play these big teams, they're not like getting totally outclassed every game, right? They had like 5 wins or something in Dream League, or maybe it was 4, something like that. Like it wasn't 0, you know, it wasn't 1. They also had some close games or games where they were like winning and then they just couldn't close it out, you know. And I think some of that can definitely be contributed to just like lack of experience against good players and this like sort of fear element that like plagues NA teams, I think. And I think I honestly have no idea how you overcome this hurdle without playing good teams more frequently. Okay. I genuinely have, because I never solved it.
So I know we're going to talk about Gaimin still, but now I have more questions.
Wait, can we quickly cover the TSM thing as well? What do you think makes them capable of overcoming this within NA? And do you think they overcome it on the international stage as well? Or because the new TSM roster hasn't had good international results, right? There was the one iteration that got, I think it was second at a major, right? Previously.
But yeah, they got second with Moon Meander and Saber.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I think I have no idea what makes the current TSM roster able to beat Spotify. They beat them the first 2 seasons. I mean, they just lost to them, right? So clearly it's not an every season thing. They lost them pretty convincingly too. They got kind of smacked.
Right.
The first 2 seasons this year, I have no idea. But TSM in the past, I think Moon Meander and also Saber to an extent, because Saber's like a goober who like doesn't have fear or something. I think they sort of overcame that in a way that Moon is just like, he just yells and gives a speech, and like, you know, he's just like a huge personality. He's like emboldening and empowering your team. And if you really buy into that, then I think that can like quell some of the fear that like, okay, we're behind this guy and we're a team and we're just gonna like go. Like I think that's why they were able to get second at the major, and why that team like, you know, had a period there where it looked like they were gonna be pretty good internationally, like they were gonna be a consistent force to contend with. Because I think they had some degree of that, of this like sort of fearlessness, because Saber is just like a clown who fears nothing, and Moon is like a very good leader.
And how many players do you think exist in NA? You don't have to name names, although that would be amazing. How many players in NA exist that would be in a similar position to what you were in, where if they just moved regions, they would thrive? If any.
I wonder sometimes what it would be like if Gunnar changed regions.
Hmm.
I wonder sometimes what it'd be like if Lelis was in a different region. Um, I wonder. I think Bryle could have a lot of success internationally. Or Tomato as well. I think there's a lot of like the pretty high rank core players who like you see at like like the major happens and they're like top 15 rank whenever everyone's in the same server, right? Like they're clearly like good high skill players. Like I think that like archetype of player can find international success.
Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about NA as per norm in a bit, but okay. Lima Major, take us through it.
Yeah, so I go in. We're pretty confident. I think we can do well at this tournament. I think winning is always hard, and you can never really know. Like like at the time, Liquid was like the giga mega big boss. Like
Yeah.
they were super terrifying. They were beating everyone. No one could take games off of them. They beat us too in the DPC, right? So at the time, Liquid is like paramount. They're being the kings. So going into the major, like beating them seems like a tall ask, but everyone else we're pretty like we're like pretty sure we can beat. Um, just depends on the day and if we perform. Um, Group stage, day one is pretty good. I think day one is like a 3-1. We're pretty happy with things overall. Just trying to understand the meta better, sort of like build that land flow. Right, this is our first land together, so we're like sort of figuring all this out together. Like how this atmosphere works and things like this. Day two I think is okay. It's day two or day three, and then day three we get smacked by EG 2-0, and we went 1-1 with like execration, I think. That was a pretty bad day. We got pretty shellacked, and EG exposed a lot of our weaknesses. And we took a lot of time and watched those replays and like learned from what they how they crushed us so bad. And I think if we hadn't have lost that series, we wouldn't have done very well at the major at all. But losing that series, we learned a lot. Like that one day made us so much better. The stuff we took away from EG, I think, like fixed a lot of our problems. And then the next day we played LGD like first thing in the morning, because so we were like on the sort of the border of like lower bracket, upper bracket, and if we do bad enough, like maybe even elimination. Like it was pretty flexible, like going like at the end of day 3 into day 4. And then day 4 we obliterate LGD. And I think we also obliterated TSM. It was like those are our last 2 matches, and we 2-0'd them both. And got upper bracket. I think we even got first in group. With the I think we did. With the 4-0 there at the end. So it was pretty it felt really good, like getting this first in group. It was like, okay, we did pretty well against all the teams. Like clearly we're competitive and we can like actually do well with this major. I mean, there's Liquid in the other group who has like 0 losses or something. So they're all, clearly we're gonna play this team at some point and it's gonna be a clash. But for now, we're chilling. We had a choice between Spotify and Aster to play in the first round. We chose Aster because we played Spotify a bunch in scrims and like done pretty well in scrims against them. But I think historically we just have a very good matchup against like in scrims and a bunch of other stuff. We had just had good matchups against Chinese teams, and it's also cool to play people who aren't from your region, who you never get to play. And we hadn't gotten to play China in a long time, right? So it's like I kind of want to play China because it's just like different. It's kind of fun. So pick Aster.
So how does that conversation go, just real quickly, in deciding? Is it just a group effort? Somebody have the final say? Like, how does your team dynamic work?
Everybody kind of just gives their opinion, and then we just sort of like muddle around until we feel like one direction like makes more sense. And that one, like I think we were very like 50-50. It could go either way. Spotify Aster. It felt like it was okay either way. I actually don't even remember what the deciding factor was. I think the deciding factor was just that we want something different. We want just like a different experience. We go in and we just play and it's fine. Whereas opposed to like Spotify, since we played scrims against them, there's more of like there's expectations and stuff start to creep in a bit more. Whereas we play Aster, and it's just a random thing. You're just playing Aster, and it's like fine. It's its own nebulous like little event. which I think is nice, especially as like your first like playoff game ever as a team. So yeah, then we beat them. The first game was insane. I almost passed out because of how hot the booth was. Because like there were ridiculous delays, right? So we went into this room and the AC was broken, and then we were in that room for an hour before the game started. So like we're just baking. Like we're so hot in this room. Like when the first lane starts, I don't know if there's like footage of the cam on me, like when that lane is happening, but I'm pretty sure I'm like I like there was a moment there where I like blacked out and I'm just like not looking at my screen, so I get stopped in this lane, like I get crushed.
Jesus.
But we end up winning the game because we have a better draft and we were owning. So we win game 1, we win game 2 pretty soundly, win the series. Cool beans. And I remember like feeling like the feeling I had over and over again every time we won in Lima was that was so easy. Like it was sort of weird because I was just always a player who played like garbage on LAN, who never won on stage. We went on stage, it was like, all right, time to die. Or like everything felt super hard. It was like you're overcoming everything if you won a game on stage. And then this is like we just walk on stage, we play, we win 2-0. We're like, okay, well, I guess we're top 6 now. Like you advance so quickly in the upper bracket, and if you're not used to being in upper bracket like me or winning like me, then it was like such a weird experience to both be in upper bracket and win. So like to just be top 6 out of nowhere was like crazy. And then we play Entity, who we're super confident against because we played them a bunch of times. We've never lost to them. And so we play them. We beat them really easily. Those games were crazy easy. They were easier than Aster. And then once again, it was like, holy crap, we're top 3. Like that was so easy. I think I said that in the booth every time after we won a series. That was so easy. And
it's like
that
what
was
I say to Shannon every time we cast a 2-0 stump. I just look at him as like, easy money.
Easy money.
It's become a tradition whenever the games are fast.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just like, holy crap, that was just shockingly easy. Like we're just top 3 now. Like it was so weird. Like I don't know, we just won 2 series. So that was like a crazy awesome experience. And the crowd was also really great in Lima. Like the first few days were kind of sus, but like as the event went on, like the crowd was really cool, and like getting to walk on stage for every game, like every stage game, was pretty awesome. Like we played on stage 4 times, or 4 series rather, and that was pretty awesome. I like that a lot about Lima. And then here it comes the final boss. We're gonna play Liquid, monk ass, and then the boxy thing happens, and it's sort of like, oh, okay.
So wait, upper bracket finals was that against Liquid, right?
Yeah, upper bracket finals was
and
Liquid.
Boxy wasn't there for that one.
Correct. He was not there for either time we played.
Right. I couldn't remember when he left, if it was at that point. Okay, so both series ended up being without him. Okay.
Yeah. So then the Boxy thing happens, and it's like the dynamic shifted because it went from Liquid as like the unstoppable final boss to like, oh, now we're supposed to beat them. Like it's weird both because we're favored now, and also if we win, everyone will put a caveat on it that we only won because Boxy wasn't there.
Yep.
So the dynamic sort of changes, and I think we just try to like keep in our minds that hey, we're not the favorites, we're not disrespecting anyone. Like, I think Jabs, by the way, played really well in like almost all the games they played. Like I think he played like quite well, and looked like a tier 1, 1.5 like competitive player. So those games were not easy, but against Liquid by any means, none of the 5 games. But I think like our mindset shift was just sort of like, nothing is free. We don't disrespect any of these players. Like this team is still an extremely good team. We treat them very seriously, just as if they were playing with Boxy. Like it's the exact same team. Nothing is different. We try to treat those matches like extremely seriously, like with no ounce of like joking around or memeing or like disrespecting Jabs or the team.
Now, having said that, like if this was a traditional sport and somebody's subbing in for like an injured player or whatever, you would try to target that player in some way. Is that something you guys ever discussed?
Intentionally did not do that.
Okay.
We knew they wanted to pick Potom because that was like the hero Jabs played the most. We also knew they wanted to play Ricky. And we intentionally didn't ban either because we would not have banned those heroes against Boxy, and we didn't want to like start mini gaming the game in some weird stupid way. Like we just wanted to play good Dota and treat them like they were Liquid, not like they were something else.
Okay.
So we intentionally made the decision to not do meme bans. Like we thought about banning Ricky Pot, and we're like, no, this is stupid. We're not doing this. Like play normal Dota. We beat them, which despite them having a stand-in felt amazing. I think I was also pretty happy with how I laned throughout the 5 games we played them at the major against Nisha, who was someone I traditionally had trouble laning against or playing against in general. I think winning those games gave me a lot of confidence. And was just like really, really helpful for me. Like Nisha going from being this scary player to just being another mortal like me, um, was like really was sort of game changing because like as we won more and more games, like less players or like fewer and fewer players held in my head, like in my inner head, like this sort of status of like monk ass, like this guy's a fucking scary player, you know. And Nisha was like one of the last players to hold the status of like this guy is terrifying. And so whenever we beat them, that's sort of like it sort of removed that for everyone. Like I just don't have the like I'm not scared of anyone anymore. Whereas I used to be scared of a lot of players, with Nisha being the most. So it was really nice, especially for me, to like finally strip that away of like I'm not scared of this guy anymore. Um, I think that was like the coolest part of beating them the first time. Um, and the second time was just sort of more of the same of like we're gonna treat these guys super seriously, stand in or no stand in. Like they beat T1 for a reason. They're in the like they beat T1 with a stand in, right? Or not T1. What were they called? Talon. Sorry. Um, with a stand in, right? They're here for a reason. Clearly, they are at least really good, not like super 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 good. So we treat them with respect. We play the series as we would any other team. And we won, um, which was awesome. But I think that was sort of like the theme for the event was like treating everyone the same and like trying to, just like give it the respect it's due.
And how did it feel to finally win something, and not just something, but a fucking major?
It was
First American.
It was pretty awesome. I won't lie. It was pretty awesome. You win, and then you just you're just standing in the booth like we won. Holy crap! And then you're like, sort of everyone's like putting their shoes on and like you can, I don't know, take a sip of water, and you're like, we won. Holy crap! And you open the door, and everyone's cheering, and like we still won. Like you feel like it's hard to believe it's real. That was like my overall feeling was just that like I can't believe it's real. And you look at your phone, and like everyone you've ever met message you on Discord, and it's just like very like wow, it's crazy. We actually won something. I won something. This bot NA idiot player who's never won anything. I won something. Um, and that was just like super super surreal and just like I don't know, just very like validating that like I wasn't a bot. I'm not a choker. I am not like, some trash player who's going to be on trash teams and it's my fault or something. Like I'm just like I'm actually capable of winning something. And like that validation of knowing that's the case now was like really nice. That was the best part of it for me.
Then there was the asterisks by some people in the community that
Yeah.
without Boxy there, you guys weren't the true I mean, this is the same thing with OG winning the first TI, right? Oh, that's a fluke. And then they fluked their way to a second one, I guess. So
Yeah.
second season, which is now the most recent, you go through DPC. What did you guys end up getting in the
We got
standings?
third place.
I think. Yeah.
And what
Yeah, we got third
was
place.
Liquid first?
Liquid was first. Tundra was second. We lost tiebreakers to Tundra.
Okay.
We did beat Liquid though. Liquid was 6-1, and we beat them in the DPC. But yeah, we
in
got
their
third.
heads now, it seems.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we beat them with Boxy, or we beat them without Boxy the first 2 times. So I don't know. I have no idea, what's in their heads. I mean, I really like playing them. I mean, they have the best results behind us this season, right? So when you play them, it's like super serious mode. It feels like you're really challenged. So like playing them is always super fun for me because it's just like I don't know, playing the best people is always just cool because you get pushed to your limits. You feel like you have to execute better, and the game is just like high skill, and you feel very in the moment. It's a very like a flow state game whenever you're playing the best team.
I think your win rate against Liquid is really good. So I find it interesting to hear this perspective that it almost seems like despite you guys beating them, I think almost like 3 out of 4 games, you still consider them you're almost making it sound like they're a formidable opponent, even though you've beaten them so many times. I think your win rate against them going into the grand finals of the last major, we'll get to that in a second, was like 75% or something over 25 games. So it was still it's still really interesting to hear because like there's just some teams that are just good against other teams, right? You mentioned your record against Entity, that you never lose to them, even though they're good against other teams in the region that you might struggle against, yada yada. But like everything you're saying about Liquid just doesn't match up with the results you've had against them. So that's kind of interesting to hear that you still think they're a tough match for you guys despite beating them most of the time?
I mean, I think we just respect all of their players a lot, and they place, like top of DPC and top
Mhm.
of every tournament, like for a reason, right? Like these, they're all super good players, and there's a reason that they're placing so well every time, right? And I think we just try to give them the respect due because, we're not gonna like underestimate. I think we're some hot shots because we beat them one time. Like at the end of the day, you're only as good as the match you just played, right?
Mm.
Like you just lost to someone, everyone's gonna think you're trash, call you garbage. You lost these guys. All the other series are flukes. That none of those matter. This one that just happened just now, that's the only one that matters, right? So, like at the end of the day, if I don't know, I just for my mentality, if I underestimate people, it always is bad for me. So I just try to treat everyone as like these guys are a very formidable opponent. I need to take this super seriously, or we can lose very easily. And that's like for me
it's
the
just an
best way.
interesting it's just an interesting dichotomy because I bet if you look through the stats, there's maybe like in the Div 1 DPC of Europe, there's maybe like 3 teams at least in the Div 1 that you have worse win rates against than Liquid probably. I would guess your win rate against Tundra is probably worse, at least Tundra.
Yeah, Tundra's
And
probably worse.
I
I don't
want to
think
say at
anyone else
least
is worse.
you think so. I would think at least one other team, but
Okay,
it's
I guess
not
Ori
coming to me.
do. I guess we're 50-50 against Ori do.
I don't know if you've played that few games. I don't know if I really want to count it at that point. Like, oh, anyway, let's move on.
Tundra might actually have a favored win rate against us, or like very close to even.
Okay. So, Berlin Major, you guys, you did pretty well, I think, some would say. Tell us about that whole experience. Because this is coming from a previous major champion. Like, was there a bullseye on your back? Did you feel any pressure or anything like that?
I didn't feel any pressure at all, actually. I think it's funny because, like you compare it to prior years, right? Like there's some LGD and they're like owning everything. Every tournament, everyone in their predictions, LGD, everyone thinks LGD is going to win, right? Or there were other years where it's some other team, that everyone thinks VP is going to win, or like the Crow Liquid is going to win, right? And we just won the major and we go in and everyone thinks Liquid's going to win still. Everyone still thinks Liquid's the favorite. And so for us, it's like pretty chill. Like we're like, okay, we're not the favorite. Cool. Let's just play some Dota, see what happens. And I think that was kind of our mindset. It's just like, all right, we'll just play. It's another tournament.
And it's on this brand new giant fucking patch, which I want to talk in detail about a little bit later.
Sure. Yeah, so we had just finished Dream League where we beat them in the finals. We barely squeaked that one out. And we learned a lot from that in terms of gameplay. I think we were a bit behind in terms of like everyone saw what we did and also got to play scrims, but we didn't get to play scrims because we played this thing and then flew.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas everyone else was like scrimming during that whole time while also watching our game. So we had less information going into the major, but what we did have is we learned a lot from Liquid beating the crap out of us in every single early game in that Dream League series. And so we learned a lot about how we wanted to play things, and we also learned a lot about the heroes and hero priority. Like Underlord and that the Dream League Best of 5 like slowly amped up to being first pick, right? Which is what essentially it ended up being at the end of the major. So we were kind of right about that. So yeah, like we did learn a lot from that series, which I think helped us going into the major. But we still were like weird on like how we play the map and how our heroes function. Like we had a lot of question marks about things, about like have things changed drastically? How are we itemizing? How have things shifted? So there was that weird dynamic of trying to figure things out. So there were a couple games, like we had some game against 9 Pandas where we got pretty outdrafted, we got run over, and they beat us pretty bad. We had a game against Bet Boom where we lost like 3 lanes, they ran us over pretty hard. We had like a few games like that where we like messed up the draft some and they just ran us over. We had a game against EG where it was like the fastest game of the tournament or something. It wasn't the fastest, it was real fast though. The score was like 3-31 or something.
There's like a lot of games like that in general.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean they fucking stomped us. So we had some games like that where they just like crushed us. And so it was sort of similar to the first major in that I think we learned a lot from the games we lost, and we tried to fix up our mistakes and have like a really good solid understanding of the meta. A lot like we did at Lima. Like I think our first phase was giga broken at Lina because we had IOLesh and then we also had all the other stupid stuff, the Lina and the Brood, that everyone else had. So we just got Lina or Brood every game because no one could beat IOLesh. And so we tried to have we tried to have our heroes in as good of a state as possible, just like we did at Lima, because that just made everything so easy because you had Lina or Brood every game. So I think like I said, we learned a lot from the groups, and then once again we had a choice between Spotify and Spirit. This time we chose Spirit because I think they were behind on the meta pretty significantly. They did not pick Dusa at all or ban it. We beat them. We had Dusa both games against them. They were not prioritizing Underlord. They were like behind on a lot of heroes that tournament, I think.
They were picking some cool stuff though, Axe and Ogre and all that shit.
Yeah, they had some cool stuff, but not some good stuff. So we picked them because we thought they were just behind on the meta, which I think ended up coming true. I think we had like Doom Dusa in one game and like Underlord Dusa in the other game or something. Like our heroes were very, very good heroes. And it paid off. Game 2, we were down quite a bit, but we ended up coming back because we had the unbeatable Snake hero.
What was their counter to that? Because we saw them play against it a few times.
The first game they had bad heroes against it. They had like Sven. I think they had Sven Darkseer.
Okay, Darkseer.
And then game 2 they had Monkey King. Something. What was it?
They crushed your offlane Underlord.
Oh, they had Monkey King. They had Axe. They had they had Monkey King Ench, and then they had Axe plus something. Anton got 100-0 dunked or whatever.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. At some point, they just ran out of damage, and the game was pretty chill. But it was dicey for a little bit there. We hung on. So yeah, I don't know. Once again, it was sort of like, okay, cool. We're top 6. That's crazy. That was really fast. The next series is it 9 Pandas? No, it's someone else. Who did we play
9
next?
Pandas was for upper bracket final.
Yeah. Oh, it was OG. It was OG. Yeah.
OG
with 2 stand-ins.
2 stand-ins. And my so that was like that series was pretty chill overall. Game 1 was like we were winning pretty handedly. Then we sort of threw a little bit and it got spicy at the end, but we won in a pretty chill manner. And game 2 was just like annihilation. We just like that game was over like before the horn, unironically. Because they're super outdrafted, and we also got first blood before the horn, and then it's just GG. So that was one of those games where you've won really early, and you kind of just prance around the map and just kill everyone and build a gold lead. You're gonna win. It's just like the games are really nice. We were just you're just killing everyone and building gold lead and building gold lead. So yeah, no, we win, and then okay, wow, we're top 3. It happened again. Like this is crazy. Like we just, I don't know. It was also surreal. But I think the big difference between Berlin and Lima and the way it felt is I did not expect to get used to winning as quickly as I did. That surprised me a lot. Like it started to feel way less good when I won, like really fast. Like we got top 3, and I wasn't like I'm happy. I feel good. It's cool, but I'm not like overjoyed like I was at Lima, where it like totally lit up my world for like the next couple days. And that was sort of a sobering and just like interesting thing to experience. Like, okay, yeah, the law of diminishing returns works on this too. Okay, so that was interesting, and probably the biggest difference for me between those tournaments. Then comes 9 Pandas match. Woo, beef. Woo.
Yeah, I can't remember what they did. The plan was to have you and Ramses do that thing at the beginning. Did they ask you to do that?
Yeah, I said no.
Damn it.
They asked if I wanted to, and I said no.
Why do you hate Ramses so much, Quinn?
No, I didn't do it because I hate Ramses. I did it because, like, I think there's not enough trash talk or like memeing or whatever in Dota. I think since Peter and Kyle left, like people are too nice to each other, and it's not fun enough. So I have decided that I will be the Spice Man if no one else will be. And I'll stir things up, and I'll say some crap and be inflammatory because I think it's fun and it's good for the scene.
Agreed.
But on game day, I'm not doing that crap because I'm focused and I'm here to win. I'm not here to like stir up a story anymore. The stirring up was before. Now I'm here to play. So I didn't want to go on stage and like get in my own head and like, oh, it's a rivalry. Blah, blah, blah. Like I just want to go on and play good Dota and try to win. And I felt if I went on stage and like, I have to come up with some line to flame him or whatever, and like there's a roast back and forth, and I don't know. It's like gonna be some funny moment, but I'm not here for funny moments. I'm here to try to win.
And you did.
We did.
You did win.
Game 1 was some wild comeback. It was a nice game to win. That felt really good to win. That felt like, okay, not only can we win very quickly from ahead, but we can win from behind too. So suck on that, So that was a really nice win. I don't remember game 2, but I think we won pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't that
Ooh.
fast. It was a tiny invoker game. Yeah, that game was pretty chill. We were pretty confident we were gonna win that game for the majority of it, I think. So yeah, a nice game 2, and then now once again we're in the finals, which is just, I don't know, it's crazy. It's just like happening again. Okay. And there's also sort of this storyline at that tournament of like Liquid sort of faltering in the beginning, and then they're ramping up. Here they come. Oh, they beat this team. They beat that team. They beat this team. They beat that team. Ooh, they're coming. Here they come. And then we're like, yes, the rematch. Like I felt it like before we even played OG. I was like, yeah, I think we're gonna play Liquid in the final if we make it. And we make it, and here comes Liquid. Yep, sure enough, here they are in the final. A rematch for the 12,000th time.
They won a game this time.
They did. But I was honestly really glad that they were in the final, because I feel like it's just so much more fun to play people that you're like friends with and you respect a lot, and it's just like it's sort of like a friendly rivalry as opposed to like something that's less fun, Like if we played Pandas, it would have been like, I don't know how the games would have gone. Maybe they do better, maybe they do worse. But like we're really chill with all the Liquid players, so playing them was just like a lot more fun and just a really nice experience. I enjoyed that finals a lot. I think Lima, I was like super locked in and focused, and I didn't really enjoy it because I was so focused. But for this one, I had like a different mindset almost. Like I think I was trying to be way more like present and just cognizant of the fact that, hey, I'm really lucky to get to do what I get to do, and I just tried to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed playing that finals. Like I actually had a great time. Even the game we lost, like I remember losing and being like, okay, that's fine. I'm like walking off stage and I'm like, you can see me like this. I'm like thinking about what we're changing for next phase, the heroes that are different, how things are being prioritized, how things are shifting, And we go backstage and we figure this stuff out real quick, come back for game 3, we win game 3, and it's like it was just a very enjoyable series.
Okay. I have a few miscellaneous questions now that we're done with the storyline, and then we'll do trivia, okay?
Okay.
Well,
Cake or pie?
Cake or pie, yes.
So you get second try.
These
now.
are kind of all over the place. So aside from playing, you've done talent work, as you've already mentioned. Obviously, you stream. Do you enjoy those? Is that something you could see yourself doing at some point if, let's say, you retire and the game is still alive somehow? I mean, you're still young, so that would be like a 20-year-old game at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I do enjoy both of them. And I could definitely see myself do them full time for some amount of time. I think I like streaming a lot.
For streaming, what's your goal on how many people to ban in your chat? Is there a number that you're trying to achieve?
It's definitely in the thousands currently. I don't know. I like streaming. I like talent. I mean, my thing with banning people is like, I don't know. I just want my chat to be nice. I'm like the streamers I'm fans of who are just like, I don't really watch Dota streams. I watch other streamers, and like their chats are they're like funny and they're like quippy and they're just like nice to read. It's not like this being toxic nonsense there is in Dota, where like it's just like a cesspool of just like inane comments. Like I don't want that. I want my chat to be nice and funny and like cool to read. So when people aren't good chatters, I just ban them. Like it's no offense, I don't hate you, but like you don't write good messages, so I don't want you in my chat. With the freedom to write messages. So I just ban people because I just want good messages in my chat. And if people aren't like contributing in some way, then like why are you writing messages?
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. I would love to see a Dota stream that has, I mean, for the streams that have positive energy, it's like not the highest viewership though. Like once you start to get the higher viewership, it's like absolute cesspool.
I was actually just I was curious about your take on this, because this is like I have this theory that there's like an invisible number on Twitch for Dota specifically, where when your chat number reaches a certain threshold, it attracts people that are just there to stir up shit and have no other motivation. Because I think you, as a streamer, have probably experienced this, because obviously now you're like really riding a high. You have a lot more fans because you guys are winning big tournaments, etc. But you've been through the grind, right? You've had 100 viewers, you've had 1,000 viewers, now you have 5K. for me, it's like once the stream gets a little bit over 4-digit, that's when it starts getting really bad, right? Would you agree with that? It's like you can't really pinpoint the number, but when you reach a certain point, you have to start either banning or moderating your chat heavily because people just start being mega obnoxious.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the point is, but there's a certain type of Dota viewer, the one that like watches purely because you're good at the game. It's not has nothing to do with you. It's only because you're good at the game. And if they see like because they have no like they don't like you and they don't care about you or anything like this, right? They're watching just for the game, that they will comment on any little thing that annoys them because you're like not a person to them, right? You're just like some AI. Like they don't like you. Like so like, you know, they see you die in some way, they're like, huh, that was your fault or whatever, you know, in something they write some dumb comment. It's like I just ban them, you know? Like that's me, is like I've accepted that some of the people here just only care about the Dota. And if you only care about the Dota, then I'll ban you and you can watch the Dota, you know? That's fine. I can't stop you from watching. But I'm not going to have you dampen everyone else's experience with your fucking mouth breathing comments.
And then what about talent work? We cast together before. You've done panel, as you talked about, at TI. What do you enjoy most from that side?
And how many talents are banned in your chat on Twitch?
I don't think any are. Maybe I should change that. I think talent work is super fun. I haven't cast in a long time, so it's hard to. I mean, I guess I did the tri-cast with Cap and Avery at TI for one of those series, which is fun. I personally think I'm better on panel than I am on casting. I think I'm actually pretty good on panel now, because I think as a pro, it's really easy to talk about Dota because everyone will take everything I say as gospel. So I don't really have to think about or stress about like what I say or any of this stuff. Like I can see a draft and just make stuff up, and people will eat it up. You know, they'll like it.
Don't tell them.
Really,
It's how I've made a living for years.
And I really like just going on panel with people, like with my friends, and just like memeing and saying dumb crap and like and making it like sort of compared to, you know, the Day 9 you know, silence panel. I like the opposite of that, where it's sort of like goony and friendly. Like I like that vibe of panel like a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. Sure. You go on air and you clown around, it's like a good time. And I feel like that translates through the screen, and people like appreciate that, and it's a better product because people are having fun on screen. Like when I went on post DPC, like for the tiebreakers, I did it both seasons. For the prior ones, because they were in Romania too, so I just like literally walked to their studio, and that was like a great time because I'm good friends with Nat and Alex and Kezu, so I just go on there and we're just like we just goon around. It's like a great time. I really enjoy that.
Okay, tell me from your perspective what the story is of LGD Ame fan Reddit account.
I don't know. There's just this guy who was leaking stuff, and then people just thought it was me for some reason. I have no idea why. I think it's because at the time I had an incredibly bad reputation. People thought I was like Satan incarnate. Like I was, you know, at any point horns would sprout from my head and pierce my headphones, you know. So like they just assumed I was the leaker because, you know.
Wasn't LGD Ame fan like beloved in some respect?
Eventually, yes, but in the beginning, I think it was like, oh, who is this mysterious man? He's so devious and doesn't obey the law. He's like Batman, but for Dota.
So do you know who it was? You don't have to tell us.
No, I don't actually.
You don't know? Do you feel like there's any way it was not a pro player with the amount of information they had access to?
I think it's not a pro player.
You thought it wasn't pro?
I think none of the leakers were pro players.
So it would have to be like a really close friend to a pro player.
I think it's relatives or close friends of pros.
Right, okay.
I think I'm almost positive that's what it is.
Do you think the pro who it's a relative to knows who they are?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Chen. We just need to have everyone as a guest and ask them one by one.
We'll get there eventually. We'll
figure out.
But I don't know if they're gonna rat their brother and or close friend out.
Oh yeah, that's my brother actually.
Oh yeah, that's John.
Do you remember the first time that we met, Quinn? I think we briefly talked about this here, at Arlington.
No.
It wasn't that memorable. Well, there was something memorable that happened.
Were you at the first summit I was at?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you were. Okay. Yeah.
So I was there with DC, obviously.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is I think we briefly talked about this, but the story is just so stupid and funny. You're obsessed with Mafia. Right? I don't know. Is that where it began, or had you played like prior to the event?
I don't think I'd ever played prior to the event, but I just fell in
Okay.
love with it.
So I got to see your cherry get popped in some respects. So what happened was, so we had an owner, the co-owner with me named
Oh.
Tom, and I don't want to go into specifics, but Tom is absolute pile. Literally got thrown in jail temporarily for fraud after me, of course. And I don't want to get political, but the way that I view Trump, right, is basically a caricature with all these like narcissistic, loudmouth, like all this stuff is literally like an actual person. That was Tom. And the reason I bring this up is because he was he was a sponsor of the event, and obviously we were there on behalf of DC as well. And you guys were playing Mafia, and this was the first time that you were like integrated into this group or whatever, and you guys kept killing Tom at the beginning of the game. And he's very petty, got so mad that he actually had to talk to one of the Grace, I think it was, who was organizing the event for BTS, saying, I will literally not sponsor this event again if you if you continue to vote. If you should talk to Quinn, because I don't think he brought it up to you. Did you know any of this was going on behind the scenes?
No, I didn't know about this. I mean, I knew that guy gave me bad vibes, and I was probably killing him because I didn't like him. But I didn't know about this.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure because that was hilarious. That was a very typical thing. You can imagine. Okay, so two serious subjects, and then we get onto the trivia. So we briefly talked about the state of NA, and we can integrate this with the DPC talk. What do you think is wrong with North America as a region? Do you think it's just simply not enough players? Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, I actually, I mean, maybe with small other factors like the cost of living in North America is really high, so it's not as easy for people to like just play Dota when they're done with school or whatever, like take a year off and do that. Like I was really, really fortunate to be able to do that, but a lot of people can't because cost of living is super expensive. So like DPC in like SA or C, right? That's like it's pretty good money. You know, you're getting paid like some money by the org, you get this DPC money. Like that goes a long way, you know, like that'll pay your bills. In NA, that is not paying your bills. So like you can't do it for a living unless you're making international tournaments with with a sponsor team that's paying you good money. So like if you're not TSM Spotify, you cannot make a living playing Dota in NA. Like now it's not making a living. They're just limping by hoping they make TI and it pays off in the future, right?
So with that in mind, what would you change with the DPC from any region?
I don't know if NA is fixable, to be honest. I actually don't think it is. I think NA is just the way it is, and the issues it has are not solvable, other than there being more players or something. But
do you think having like higher payouts for certain regions based on cost of living is something that would potentially not necessarily fix it, but remedy some of it?
I mean, I think from a conceptual standpoint, it's not so bad, but I just feel the state of NA is so bleak currently that you'd just be paying the people who are like just doing NA for fun or whatever, or for like money or whatever, and they just collect a little more money. Mm-hmm. But it's not gonna be enough to push NA over the ledge to like being a competitive region. Is my feeling.
And then what would you change with the DPC just in general, like not just with NA, but just generally speaking?
I mean, I just think the year is too crammed right now. Like, I think that everything is too close to each other for no reason. Like Riyadh it's like right after Bali, right? And then between Riyadh and TI, there's like nothing for like a month and a half.
There's gonna be TI quals and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's TI quals, sure, but that takes like a week, right? So for me, it's just weird that everything is so jammed next to each other, and then right at the end, there's this huge gap. Like it would make sense if they were trying to move TI back, but TI has not moved back, right? It's like the latest it's ever been.
Yeah.
So then why is there a week break between the major and the DPC? Like, to me, I just think it's too crammed unless they were trying to move TI back.
That's my theory. I mean, I always have these fucking theories. Like with the last TI where the Justin Bieber concert, that's why they ended up doing two separate, whatever, like different, like you had TI and then the top 6, I think, played the second half or whatever it was.
Yeah,
it was
top
weird,
6, yeah.
Which ended up being an experiment, which, you know, maybe they just couldn't find Key Arena or whatever the hell it's called now.
Climate Pledge.
I don't know what the it's an NHL arena now, I think, right? So I don't know what the NHL schedule looks like. But anyway, we'll piggyback off that with TI being revealed kind of with a 10-second video, which took very little effort to make. That one just was, I could not stop laughing. What do you think about it being back in Seattle and the fact that the format has, 3 days only in arena so far is what has been announced?
I mean, I hate the 3 days in arena. I think that's terrible. Personally, my favorite part of TI is whenever every team walks on stage, like from the past, right? Like the Optic year, every team goes on stage and then they you all walk on one at a time and they announce everyone and you're in a big circle around the Aegis. That's being awesome. I that moment's so cool. They do it with the same time as the opening ceremony. It's being boss, it feels like the christening of this super cool event, and then every game is on stage, in the big arena. If it's feasible, that to me is by far the coolest and best part of TI, is you have this giant audience you don't get for any other LAN, and it's just a different experience when you walk into a circular, one of the huge circular stadiums just full of people. That experience is just the walk on is the fucking coolest thing ever. You can feel the rumbling in the air and you're just walking on stage into the booth. It's epic. It's honestly an amazing feeling, and to not have that is sad. I think it sucks.
So we were theory crafting, and this is maybe some copium action here, that perhaps the 3 days are the key arena days. Again, don't know, climate change or whatever the fuck. Climate change arena? That's not the name, right? Climate Pledge Arena. We were
That's
thinking
the new Spotify right there.
we were thinking it would be epic if they had Benaroya Hall for the earlier days prior to that, because I mean, you didn't get to actually play at Benaroya Hall, but that was...
No, I've never been there.
Much more condensed, but just very special. I think if they do that, then they have my stamp of approval, which is very important, obviously, for Dota's future. But we'll see.
I mean, if they did that, that would be awesome. I mean, I think if we're playing in a hotel or with no crowd for TI playoffs, that is really sad. So they should either have a second venue or, I mean, it's too late to extend the key arena dates. So the key arena dates are just the 3 days, right? So I just think playing TI from a hotel would just be just sad. But I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. Beggars can't be choosers.
It feels like a waste to fly out 18 teams or however many it is now and have reached the bracket, and then 2/3 of the team in the bracket don't even get to play on stage at the World Championship, right? Picture this in a sport, what that would be like. You go to the Football World Championship, and the first 2/3 of the World Championship is just played without a crowd, and then it's all right, we're at the top 6 of the Football World Championship.
Now
the
there's
audience
a crowd
gets to be here.
Yeah.
It just feels weird. And I think part of the reason they've downscaled potentially is that if you look over the history of TI, a lot of the time the first few days in arena aren't exactly jam-packed with people, but I personally don't think that's necessarily a problem. If the tickets are priced accordingly and you sell out and people don't show up all the time, then that's their choice. They can go and see a select game. Maybe they want to see their favorite team only. Maybe they are doing something else in the day and don't end up showing up, but they have the ticket. As long as they paid the ticket, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know the economy behind this. Maybe you need to ask an absurd amount of money for the tickets to even break even on this. Maybe it's just stupidly expensive. But if there's anything we've seen year after year with TI, they've jammed up the prices quite a bit for the tickets. They'll still get
real side note. Right? Quick side note: NHL season, which I thought this would be the big issue, why they didn't do it in September. It starts October 7th, so that is not, unless there's another Justin Bieber might be in town, and they just didn't book on time again.
Bieb strikes again.
Well, but with NHL starting October 7th, that could explain why they can't get the arena for more than 3 days in October.
Right, but then begs the question, why not just have it in September?
But then you could have moved it to September if you thought it was possible. I think there's a secondary concern there, though, that if you do push it forward by a full month, then there's a way higher risk that certain players don't obtain a visa in time after they qualify.
Yeah, that's true.
You need to have that time span to allow players that struggle. I would especially imagine, in this time, it's probably hard to get a visa from Russia to the US, I would imagine. It might be hard to still get... Some of the SEA countries have always struggled, right? With getting them on time.
The Philippines always have issues.
Yeah, Philippines in particular. Sometimes Malaysians, I think, have had a hard time. So I think it's really good that there's some leeway, but it's finding that sweet spot where it's not too long, and you get to move. Like maybe you could have moved TI by 2 weeks this year, right? And then next year you could have moved it 2 weeks, and then suddenly it's in September instead of October. But if you don't move it at all, I don't know if we're ever gonna really. Because I think most of us think August is just better for multiple reasons. More people have holiday. The weather is better if you're in Seattle. There's less sickness because it's in the summer, right? You have less risk of being struck by shit like that. So it is what it is.
Okay, final topic before trivia. Your thoughts on the patch. Things you love, things you hate, what do you want changed, etc.
Overall, I like it. I think in terms of the core fundamentals of the game, or what's like really valuable, or what like drives good gameplay, etc., I think none of that stuff actually changed, which I like because I think the position Dota was in pre-patch is very good in terms of rewarding good gameplay and like things that make sense or have like always been like really core to what makes like Dota good. I think were rewarded. So that not changing in the patch and just like new shiny little things to do and stuff that like the average player will like a lot. Sort of new objectives or a new feel. I like the Roche changes. I feel like the Roche fights like being different, and it not being set up the exact same way or defended the exact same way every time is really cool. Now you have like these fights where people like wrapping under and below each other and like you're doing these weird like spirals for the Roche pit. Like I think that's cool. I like the rune change where they spawn in cycles now instead of like arcane DD, arcane DD, arcane DD, arcane DD. Like it can be like it's a set, right? And then when the set finishes, it spawns a new set and then it works through that set. Like I like that and just reducing like stupid RNG. Like I don't mind rune RNG, but like the individual spawns I think was really dumb. Like sometimes Storm just got a bunch of arcane runes and it was like really rigged. I hate how they nerf heroes these days. I just don't think they nerf heroes enough. And it really pisses me off.
Took them so long to touch Medusa. Like I wouldn't have minded even a undocumented hotfix during the tournament for fucking Medusa.
Yeah, I think players were okay with that too. Like this Doom hero is first phase banned every single game or first pick the entire tournament by every single team, and the hero gets a 0.5% win rate nerf. Like he lost 5 GPM. Like I just hate this garbage so much. I am a big fan of like ho ho ha ha era where Sniper is the best hero in the game and they take the hero and they just drive him underground. Like they make him completely unplayable to where the hero is just not seen again for years. Like I like patching that way. I like heroes that are super obnoxious and boring concepts and they just take it and they just pile drive it to the center of the earth for like a while, and then they slowly bring it back over time. Like I'm a fan of patching that way. I wish Doom and Beastmaster were just obliterated into the Nether realms, and we just don't see them again for a year. Like they're not a TI, they're not the next major. They're just not pickable heroes. Like they make Devour cost 4,000 mana.
I think you have enough heroes in the game that I think is fine personally as well. As long as
I was going to say there's enough heroes in the game that has happened too.
Yeah, OD is making his way back slowly,
unintentionally as well.
Yeah.
Like so, I just hate the way heroes are patched. I think the map changes are cool. I think the game overall, I'm chill with the changes. I just think heroes are not nerfed enough these days, and it's super annoying.
Okay, so let's go back to the way the map was changed, because this is something Cinder and I talked a lot about, I would say on our podcast, but also during cast, since we don't talk about the actual game at any point. But how long do you think it's going to be until we know definitively whether this patch, like the terrain changes and all the objectives, is good for Dota? Because I think we're still in the exploratory stage. Obviously, the patch came out right before the tournament, so everybody was just, I mean, in a couple of months, we're going to look back and say everybody was fucking terrible at that tournament, right? That's just how these patches work. So how long do you think it's going to take before we know? Or do you think it's already at a point where we do?
I think some things about it are bad. I think Wisdom Runes in their current state are very bad for the game. And should be either reverted to books or something where they're unstealable until like you take a certain tower, like Outpost or something. Because the way it is right now, if you lose lanes and you get your Wisdom Rune stolen, the game is over at 7 minutes. You cannot play.
And they buffed the Wisdom Rune as well in this last mini patch, right?
Yeah, I think when they did that, they were intending to make supports have a better game, right? Because they felt like people didn't have enough XP last patch. What it actually does is if you take the Wisdom Rune, if you take both Wisdom Runes, the game's over, and the support will never ever get XP because you're just down 2 levels. Their subs are level 5 and yours are level 3, and you can't play anymore. Like they're just gonna outfight you in every skirmish, and you can't win anymore.
But then they
and you'll
tried
never,
to counter
ever get
it
levels.
perhaps with the stacking mechanism, right?
But even that, like that favors the ahead team, right? If you're winning lanes, then you just take their stacks, and then they don't get the XP anymore. If you're ahead, you take their Wisdom Runes.
What if you
don't
got
get
the
Wisdom
XP
Runes.
for stacks that the enemy's taking because you stacked it? That's info as
that,
well.
That's a weird mechanic. But yeah, I think Wisdom Runes are very bad. I don't mind Tormentors. I don't mind the side camps. I think Watchers are kind of cool, actually. I think I like
Wow,
Watchers.
That's the first person I've ever talked to that has said those words out of their mouth. Most people are very neutral
I definitely
on
don't
them.
hate them.
Nah.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it's kind of cool. I think it's like, I don't know, there's some like area control like dynamics or whatever. I think it's interesting at the very least. I don't think it's bad.
Okay, I'm gonna pitch some ideas to you, Quinn. All right.
Okay.
You're actually the first person that we've talked to that has liked. Overall, we like the Roche changes, I think, but there's a few things that we would like changed. So tell me if you like them, okay?
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, you like that they're that far away in the corners of the map, or do you think they should be?
I mean,
moved
it's annoying. I mean, it nerfed the Roche, right? It takes longer to kill it. It takes longer to walk there. I think they felt like the Roche was OP and they wanted to nerf it.
Because my original idea was to have them in the river still, but they alternate the opposite sides of the river. So the reason for that is because I like the idea of there actually being a 360-degree angle in which you can attack and defend or try to steal. Where now, there's like a quarter of that is just taken away. And you're just it's just one angle you're coming at, essentially, right? But there's 2 pathways, but one angle. That's one thing that we don't like. And then the second thing is the third Roche. One side gets Refresher Shard, and one side just, in almost every scenario, objectively better, the Aghanim Scepter. I think
that one's weird.
The Ags should be the old neutral, which is a temporary Ags for a few minutes. That's my idea, at least. Your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I see what you mean about there not being the whole 360 access.
I don't think necessarily, by the way, that you would want them in the river, Shannon, right? Like, even if we moved them closer toward the middle, that would also be
I'm
good.
just saying, that was the original idea, was that it was in the river. But
that was under the assumption that the map wasn't going to get bigger, right?
True.
Now that the map is bigger, you can still have them on the side next to the lane, basically, but it doesn't have to be that much thrown away in a corner, maybe.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm weird. Like, I know how I feel about changes once they happen, but in terms of like speculating about what would be good or would be bad, I like don't trust myself very much. Like, I think my ideas about how what changes should be made are generally not that good. Aside from, I'm positive that some heroes should be exterminated. But besides that, I don't know. Like, I'm sort of weird about it. Like, I can see the merits of what you're saying. I do think that Ags being objectively better, so like you just wait to kill Roche when it's bottom because Ags is just better. That one's kind of weird. So you just don't want to kill it when it's top.
And there's a huge inherent problem with that, right? Which is Radiant just has a massive advantage whenever Roche is bottom. So I think that's a huge part of the Radiant win percentage here, is that when you get to third Roche stage, Radiant will either get that Roche or they will have the buyback advantage because they can TP to the outpost. And if they're the ones, as a result, getting the Roche kill, they get the good Roche reward. I personally think, similar to Shannon, we just both think the Ag Scepter is way better. And I think an elegant solution is just, why not just have the third Roche drop the shard and the fourth Roche drop the scepter? Then you're done with it. Like, why does it have to be random?
I think that's fine too.
I think most people
think
are
Ags
on
on
board.
third Roche is like game ending in a lot of ways. Like, you get this Ags and it's just like,
really,
you just get
it's
6,000 gold. Yeah.
You just get 6k gold randomly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too strong. For sure.
All right. Let us move on to trivia, everyone's favorite topic. Well, it's not a topic.
Always win.
Little game show here.
Okay.
Cinderin, what? Quinn already ruined this one. And we'll continue on. What game has Quinn played second most behind Dota? I'm not even going to give you multiple choice.
Oh, well. Has he ruined it? He mentioned multiple games.
He did.
I did mention multiple games.
I'll say Call of Duty.
Correct.
Which one?
Very good. Oh, okay, which one?
Yeah.
There's only like 20 to choose from.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Yes, that's correct. Man,
did I get a bonus
good.
point?
No.
No.
Quinn, how many times has Cinderin been to North America? Is it 6, 8, 10, or more than 10? He's really scraping the barrel for these because he has to make new questions
done it
every
like
time.
15 times.
We can just reuse old questions, I think.
It's either 10 or more than 10. So actually, is it? So let's see. No, maybe it's. Okay, I'm gonna say 8.
8. Okay. I'd be surprised if Cinderin
incorrect.
even counted the amount of times. Go ahead,
It
Cinderin.
many
is
is
more
it?
than 10.
Have you
Okay.
counted?
I don't know exactly. I don't
Yeah.
know exactly how many. But,
Shocker.
So, TI 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 6 times, and TI 8 is in Canada, so that's 7. Then there's Captain's Draft in Washington. There's ESL New York, and then there's at least 2 or 3 hubs at BTS in California.
Oh, I forgot about hubs. I forgot
it's
about
like the Summit,
BTS stuff.
TI
Yeah.
Man,
qualifiers.
back when
so-
NA actually had stuff to do for Dota.
so
Isn't that
if I
crazy?
were to guess, it's probably 12 times, but that's why I said more than 10, because I don't know the exact number.
Okay, it's all right. You can come back here.
Rough
Quinn,
start.
this is for Cinderin. Quinn played an instrument for 8 years as a kid. What was that instrument? Is it the piano, violin, guitar, bass?
Piano.
Correct. Very
is correct.
good, Cinderin. Can you still play well? Or can you even
No,
play well?
Could you ever
I
play
stopped playing like a long time ago. So
Really?
no, not really.
Piano's
Yeah.
like, that's got to be the coolest instrument. I wish I had learned as a kid.
Yeah, I really wish I could play an instrument too, even at a basic level.
Oh, what was your
Yeah, I mean,
favorite
if I,
song to
like-
play?
I could play the song from Interstellar. That was pretty fun.
Oh, what? That's a hard one.
Yeah, it was pretty hard,
Damn.
but it was fun.
That's my favorite movie too. That's
All right.
great.
Good movie.
All right. I mean, you should put that as a stretch goal for your stream. Play the
I have to
Interstellar
relearn it. I
theme song.
can't play it anymore.
No, live learn. You know,
That would take
learn with chat. I think the comments in your chat are going to be so positive. You don't have to ban anyone. when
Yeah,
you
of
play piano.
course.
All right. Question for Quinn. Which of the following has Cinderin never lost? His wallet, a family member, 10 pubs in a row, or fourth, my way at night, his way at night. So apparently he's lost 3 of 4 of these, which is incredible. His wallet, a
Okay.
family member, 10 pubs in a row, his way at night.
Okay, so I feel like the fact that he's put a family member makes me feel like he's lost a family member.
Yeah, I think so. I would
He's
guess
also
so.
for sure lost 10 pubs in a row. There's no doubt about that. So then it means his wallet or his way at night. I feel like this is so weird. Thinking to say your wallet makes me think he's lost his wallet, but he's also a pretty like careful person. I feel like so maybe he wouldn't lose his wallet.
No, he
But
is
that
not
applies
careful.
for.
He's not.
He's not careful?
No, he very deceiving creature. This Cinderin. What's the
Okay,
word I always
then-
use, Cinderin, for you? Not aloof.
Stupid.
No.
I'll say he's never lost his wallet.
Okay. Cinderin.
That is correct.
Wow.
That's the
All
one.
right, we need to hear
Nice.
the story
Very good.
about the family member and the way at night.
I would
I mean, if you lose a family member, it just means someone in your family dies, right? I've lost a grandparent.
Oh, I thought.
Oh,
that's not what
I meant like they got lost, like they got lost at like
Oh
Walmart,
my
you know, and you had to find
God.
them.
No, I've lost family members.
That is
They're-
not
that's-
the
Oh,
same as the
That's
rest.
so much.
Cinderin.
That's so much darker. I thought he was gonna say like, oh, you went to the grocery store, and we like
Yeah.
forgot them there, and drove
No,
back home.
All of them are lost. It's just different meanings of the word.
Oh my
I thought it was a good question.
It's
All
so
right.
much darker than I thought.
Yeah, I'm on the
Okay.
same level as Quinn.
Well, there isn't. I mean, if you want some more details in it, I can tell you when. But
No,
I don't think
how,
that's particularly.
How about the
interesting.
way at night then? That sounds more
Yeah,
interesting.
so I was out drinking, and it was very late, and it was a snowstorm,
Hmm.
so you couldn't get a cab. It was impossible to get a cab home from the city, and I lived like, what was it, like 4 kilometers away by foot or something like that. So it would take like half an hour to walk usually, but it was a snowstorm, so it's like harder. And at some point, I should have made a turn, and I didn't, so I just kept walking straight in this like mega snowstorm, and it was really fucking cold. And then at some point, I'm in the middle of a street and somebody else is getting driven home. Somebody else apparently somehow got a taxi at the time. And that taxi saw me walking on the street and they stopped and they were like, "Are you okay? Do you need a ride?" And I was like, "Yeah, please pick me up." So he drove the other guy home and then continued and drove me back afterwards. And then I covered the cab, right? So honestly, it's kind of a scary thing when you think
When
about
was
it,
this?
right? Like, I don't know. It's many years ago. It was when I was studying. So it would have been probably, at least I think it was. So maybe 2012, 2013 or something like that, maybe.
Dang.
Yeah, I remember vividly getting back to my hotel, or my hotel, or my apartment after, and I lay in bed, and my thighs took, I kid you not, like 45 minutes to thaw. It was like you were just,
Damn.
you constantly felt
Holy
cold.
crap.
Like you're lying there and you feel cold. It wasn't like, oh shit, my leg is freezing or anything, but just for your body to reach normal temperature, it was just like, man, my leg is still cold. It's been a really long time. What the fuck? But I was fine. Nothing happened, fortunately. But yeah, I guess that's a little bit of a learning experience there. But yeah, everything was okay. So.
That's why I don't live in cold
And I mean,
weather.
at the end of the day, I was walking toward a living area, right? So if I hadn't found that cab randomly, I would have found some houses. And then at some point, you got to knock a door or whatever out of desperation. You're like, "I'm really sorry, but something like that."
Yeah,
can
in
happen.
America, you get
Probably
shot for
scary
that.
as
So
shit
that's
for them. Yeah, I mean, that's a bit country specific, of course, but
yeah, I
it's pretty
just
safe
have
here.
to die in the streets, I guess. And that,
Yeah.
right?
Or die by gunshot or die by cold, pick one.
All right, last question for each of you. Cinderin, Quinn strongly dislikes one of the following foods. Which is it? A, kiwi. B, quinoa. C, mayo. D, radish.
I feel like the quinoa is a bait answer because it's like his name. Or maybe he specifically dislikes it because people call him that instead of Quinn.
Wait, when Gaimin Gladiators was announcing all you guys, didn't they use quinoa as the
They did.
because everybody had like a healthy food attached to them.
What were the first and the last options? Radish and kiwi?
Radish, kiwi, quinoa, mayo.
That's so... Why is mayo in... What the fuck? It's bait. It's radish.
Quinn?
It is quinoa.
It was... But
How
is
much
it
do
because
you
of the
hate it?
taste or because it's just
No,
annoying?
it's because of the texture. I hate fuzzy foods. Like, why is it fuzzy?
Well, kiwis are fuzzy if you don't.
No, but
cut
you
them.
don't eat the skin.
Oh, yes, you do. We
Shannon,
had
this
this
is
you
sick
do. I
fuck.
don't.
Okay,
I don't either.
we
don't
had
worry.
this conversation. I used to eat the kiwi without the skin, and then somebody told me you can eat it with the skin. It's nice. I'm like, I looked it up online. It's actually healthy to eat it. I'm like, okay, I'll actually try. It's great. It's got like this little bitter taste that ends up comboing with the kiwi very nicely. The fuzzy thing you would not like though. It's like
Now you're
eating
just
a bear's
bait-
arm.
now you're
Fuzz,
just
not a
baiting
fan of the
YouTube.
fuzz.
He's just baiting YouTube interactions. Don't bother.
Oh my god! All right, last question and the usual question: what is Cinderin's dog's
Onion.
name? Oh shit!
Okay. The first
Oh,
guest that
shit.
knows it.
I know.
Nice.
All
All right, just for that, Quinn wins the trivia. Good job, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah. Two-time major champion and, more importantly, trivia winner on the
Wins
show.
the trivia by 1-2 as the first ever.
That's right. Quinn, thanks for joining us. As always, you're great for the community. Great as I don't know if you're a villain, but whatever you're trying to do, it's working. So keep it up. It's terrific. Do you have any final words for people, where to follow you, etc.?
Yeah, you can watch my stream. I've been streaming recently. I'll probably stream a little bit more.
Don't
in the
post
future.
shit. If you want to get banned, post in his chat something really bad.
Yeah, I'll give you a guide to typing in my chat. Type a small message, preferably quippy, plus an emote, and you're all good. You'll be fine. Road concern is also ban immunity. Yeah.
What if
So
you're like,
yeah,
quinoa is the best?
I won't ban you, but I know it's not a good
damn,
message.
All right. You've got soft.
Yeah. Thanks to all the people who support me behind the scenes. I would be a chump without said people. So yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until next time, Suns Fan Center and Quinn signing out. Peace.
Bye.
We say things that don't mean anything.
Subscribe.
Thanks for
Holy crap.
listening. Yeah.